Preliminary announcements. Does anyone have any preliminary announcements tonight? Before we start, preliminary announcements? No. Okay, roll call.
Councilman Ballas?
Here.
Councilman Engels?
Here.
Councilman Petrucci?
Here.
Councilman Stein?
Here.
Councilman Deschamps?
Here.
Councilman Bodadian?
Here.
President Paul?
Here.
Guys, there's some seats up here. A couple people can come up.
Mr. President, I do have one announcement.
Yes.
The Steel Valley Veterans Committee at Steel Valley Senior High School, it'll take place November 10th at the senior high. All the public is invited. It's full participation by grades kindergarten through 12th grade for the school kids, and it's a pretty nice affair. We've been doing it since 1981, and we invite you all to come. We think you'll be pleased with what you see.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Been informed by our fire chief we can't block the exit. People, come on in here and bring chairs up. We have another row. We can put another seat of rows here. Come on in. There's more chairs in the back room.
We'll wait for you all to
Yeah, thank
get
you.
some chairs or up.
Thank you very much. Let's grab some more chairs in the back room there so no one's standing back there. Have a seat.
Next meeting, no, Tuesday. This coming Tuesday. Next Tuesday. Yeah, we got from yesterday, 12:30, Tuesday the 20th. I think it's a silly Bob. I can tell you my first one up on the page. Okay, 26th, Tuesday, 12:30 at the senior high.
23rd.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that changed. It was supposed to be Friday. Yeah.
Is that a Friday or a Friday? The Veterans Day thing?
I think it's on Friday.
It's a night, isn't it? Because I was just thinking, holidays are Sunday today. Give them the correction. Just one, Mr. Trishon and I were just talking. The Veterans Day at the school is going to be on November 9th. It's a Friday, not the 10th, it's Saturday. So it's November 9th.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I noticed all public speakers addressing council. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Must avoid personal references, personality, and personnel-related issues. Our first speaker, Ray comments. Ray did not make it today? Okay. Okay, Bill, you're up. Bill Pelger is our first speaker. Hi, Bill. Step up to the stand here. Come up there. Just give your, name and address.
Council Bill Pelger. I live and work out of 2108 West Street in Munhall, right down the street here. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Usually when attorneys say that, it's the last word, but I will. For the past 10 or 15 years...
Can't hear you, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. For the past 10 or 15 years, Munhall has attracted what I believe are too many people that are absentee landlords and cater to Section 8 people, especially in this section down here in Lower Munhall, but it's happening all over. Recently, there's been some promising developments. I had the opportunity of meeting a young man named Jesse Wigg, who has a company named Atlas Estates, and they basically develop properties. And they've been looking all over Pittsburgh, and they found Munhall to be a great place to buy old properties and renovate them in a good way. They do all new mechanicals, roofing, plumbing, electric. So he had a house, 121st, 120th here, totally made it, kept the architecture on the outside as it was, but updated the inside to make it more appealing to modern concepts. He had it under agreement for $150 and it sold for over $150. So he bought 2 doors down. He bought the Brown building, which has been an eyesore for years, behind Eddie Corey's building. He has that sold. I don't know if it's under contract, but for $170. So these are very promising developments. The people that are coming in are nice people. They're younger, educated, or gainfully employed at least, and they have a different idea about housing than their parents did. They like to live close to the city, and they're being forced out of Greenfield. If you ask me, Munhall has a lot nicer homes than Greenfield, but Greenfield's close to the city, and they're buying over here. I sold him a house in one of my estates for like $18,000 on West 10th. It's already gutted, and it's going to be, you know, really impressive when he's done. So my point is, you know, the last thing you should do, you know, I haven't looked at all of the information. I'd like to see more, but is to tear down this building. Some probably realize it is architecturally significant. It's a classic government works project building that was designed in that architecture, you know, when the government sponsored, you know, and paid for buildings, and it's a style that's kind of recognized all over the country, and they call it PWA modern. So a lot of people think it's an old dinosaur, but when you look at it closely, it's Indiana limestone. It has very interesting masonry work under the windows. It's clean, it's lineal. And, you know, if you Google this, there's articles on this type of architecture. This building actually looks like a miniature version of the San Diego Town Hall. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it, but they note that this architecture draws from the greater use of conservative and classical elements and has a monumental feel. So a lot of people I know, when they come into Munhall, they say, it's a pretty neat, you know, building you have there. A lot of boroughs don't have a building like that. I know a couple people that are friends of mine that ran for judge and came up here and had to give their stump speech, said that, you know, that's a pretty interesting building. Why don't you clean it up? It doesn't look bad, but if it was restored and lit, it's very attractive, very attractive. So that is my point, is to, whatever you do, I understand that people are complaining about enough space and so forth, and I really can't address all the details. I would like to see more detailed reports than the ones we have. But, you know, look at Homestead. You know, they didn't run and tear down their police station. Now it's a brewery, and you got all these young hipsters from all over Pittsburgh coming there and spending money. Same way with the post office. I'm sure somebody wanted to tear down both of those buildings, but the Munhall post office, excuse me, the Homestead post office was kept, and it's upscale condominiums. I think I recall years ago, I'm old enough to remember, somebody wanted to tear down the Carnegie Library. Somebody wanted to tear down Wrigley Field. So just think about that and keep this building. I implore you to. It has a lot of value in making Munhall a better community. As far as these reports go, I'd ask you to get a second opinion. It seems like there's a lot of effort, a lot of detail to finding the inadequacies of this building, going into you know, electric, mechanical, which I'm sure you could find, but the other building makes me nervous. It's old. I would bet it has a lot of asbestos in it, and somebody's giving it to you, so think about that. If somebody gives you something, it's usually not worth anything. I'd ask you to get another opinion, and that's all I have. Thank you very much. Thank you very
much. Mr. Pelger, is that your banner that on the pole on West Street?
I'm not that quite old.
Okay, I was just asking.
Yeah, I'm not that old. I'm going to be 60.
Invite you to our meeting.
Don't remind me, I'm going to be 60 in a couple of weeks.
Is it your dad's?
That is my father, yeah.
God bless him.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, the next speaker, Maureen Fry. Just your name and address.
Maureen Fry, 124 West Virginia Avenue, Munhall, Pennsylvania. I'm on the agenda to talk to you about the Willis Center cost renovation versus the borough building. Last week when we were here, we heard from our mayor that there were many issues regarding the Willis Center, such as the roof leaking, which was nowhere in the engineer's cost report, asbestos removal, no sprinkler system, the windows do not open from the inside, the asbestos pipe wrapping throughout the building, the asbestos floor tiles. He made other mentions. However, none of them were in the estimate that we had received. And so my question to you as council is, After hearing about all these problems, I see on number 8, motion tonight, you have, I'll read it exactly so we get it straight. You want to approve the agreement to extend the deadline to accept the Willis Center properties until December 31st, 2018. My comment is, I think the words should say, motion to approve the agreement to extend the deadline to accept or reject the Willis Center. Because the way it's worded here, it sounds like we're going to accept it. I think there's so much questions going on about it that we need to hear about it. So my question to you as council is, what did you come away with after last Wednesday's meeting as a council regarding Willis Center?
It's being delayed. We're looking at other things, and plus our solicitor, and there was a check done, and there is there's a problem where it could be. Greg, can you handle that?
Mr. President,
I'm not Greg good.
yeah, the reason that motion's on there, and it says accept, because the deadline is to accept. So if you don't accept, then it's rejected. It's automatic.
Oh, it's automatic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank
if they
you.
don't accept it, it's rejected, and the deal is dead.
Okay.
But the deadline was set to expire at the end of this month. And the owner, Turtle Creek Valley Mental Health, Mental Retardation, called us and gave us a heads up probably a month ago and said, listen, we have a lot of properties that are encumbered by a loan with PNC. They're donating 2 parcels, or have offered to donate 2 parcels to this borough, and they have 2 other parcels next door and other properties throughout the county. And so they have all these properties under the umbrella of a lien with PNC. So she said, I just need a little time to have PNC release these 2 parcels from the lien, because of course I wouldn't allow this borough to take a donation where there's a lien with a mortgage. And then we also heard recently with the title company, that's my job as a solicitor to make sure we get clear title. They warned me of the same issue. So we couldn't, she didn't feel, she being the executive director of Turtle Creek Valley Mental Health, didn't feel like she could get that accomplished with the looming deadline, which was in only about a week. So we all suggested, let's extend this. Doesn't commit anybody to anything. It just gives us more time so she could resolve that issue. So that's the nature of the motion, and if it's not accepted, it's automatically rejected, okay?
Okay. And my last thing is, in the papers that were passed around today, regarding the Willis Center, to me it's the same numbers that we had before. So with all those issues that the mayor brought up, there's no change in numbers, or have you not discussed it at all?
Well, do you want me to just address all the concerns now, or just talk about the numbers?
Sure.
General? So the estimates that were prepared for both this building and the Willis Center are intended, they're 10,000 foot estimates. They're intended to give council and everyone information so they can make a decision. A detailed design for either building has not been performed. That's the next step, but they have to figure out what they want to do. So that was the intent. In order to prepare the estimates, I used RS Means construction cost data. This is my copy from 2015. We have the latest and greatest editions in our office. This is 1,000 pages, collects construction cost data from all over the United States. It has cost index for where you're working. I use this along with my own company's information. We do work for Alcosan, we do work for PWSA, we do work in Columbus, Ohio, we do work in New Orleans, we do work all over the world. We know what stuff costs, generally. So that is the intent. So I heard a lot of talk about the roof and the windows, okay?
The asbestos.
I'll get to that in
Okay.
a second. So I didn't open every window in the building. I didn't go on the roof and inspect it. But I used rough costs in the architectural fees that I think would cover that. If not, let's just look at the cost. So I think a new roof, conservatively, if you look at construction cost data, would probably cost $5 to $7 a square foot. That's for a brand new roof, built up, asphalt roof, flood coated with gravel, insulation, everything. So be talking about probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $75,000 that would easily be covered in the.
Please let him.
They know more than
He
you
has
do.
the floor right now, okay? He has the floor. He's our professional engineer, and I want to hear from him, okay? So please let him speak without any interruption.
So we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood to $50,000 to $75,000. Say it was double that, it would still be covered in the contingency I gave you, which is close to $750,000. All right. Talk about windows. So I looked up, what does a window cost? Let's assume I didn't measure all the windows in the building when I was there. You know, we put this together again at a very high level. A new window, 3x4 window with an aluminum frame and insulated glazing costs about $800 each installed in a large order. So assuming that there's 130 windows in the building, I didn't count every window, but again, you're talking about $100,000, a number that's easily absorbed in the contingency. So that's all. Oh, and let's talk about past, what's better than means data, past precedent. Let's talk about roof projects we did here in Munhall. We replaced the roof on this borough building in 2009. In 2009, it cost $65,000 to do this roof. So inflate that, double the cost, do whatever you want. 2010, we did the roof at fire station number 4. That was considerable upgrades, included rebuilding parapets, all kinds of structural work.
Can I ask you one question? When you replaced the roof here in this building, and what year was that?
2009,
And the price was?
$64,000.
Then
And the
here
job
we
went
are,
to GW
9 years
Roofing?
later, but we all realize that the roof is leaking, okay? That's 9 years. So do we have any comeback that we could,
A warranty for a roof is
I thought it
not
was like
10
25 years. But I'm just saying, you know, sometimes I kind of feel it, but,
Well,
okay.
we can
I'm
look
just
into
saying,
it.
if we replace the
We
roof
can look-
and
we
we
can
already
look
have problems.
Look into the warranty. We don't know exactly the whole scope of the project. It was 10 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
At fire station number 4, that project cost $134,000 for a brand new roof, parapet rebuilt, structural modifications,
Okay.
the whole shebang.
Just
So
one last
when
thing.
you're thinking in context of a $4 million construction project, and you're talking about $100,000, that's 2.5% of the construction cost. So that's not a big item.
I think the last thing that many of us would be so concerned about is the asbestos.
The asbestos. I'm
So
glad
would you just give us an
Should I
idea?
jump to the asbestos? So there was a report
Because
done
it's throughout.
in 2005. My firm, Hatch, did not do asbestos testing or an environmental survey, but there was one done. I reviewed it. So when they had it done, I think the Eastern Orthodox Church, Homestead, had the 1924 building and the Willis building checked for asbestos. Okay. In the Willis building, they found 4 sources, not potential sources, they found asbestos in 4 locations. They found it in the second floor, the tile, so that's the floor tile, so 12 by 12 floor tile. They found it in the first floor ceiling tile adhesive. So not the ceiling tiles themselves, the mastic that they use to adhere the ceiling tiles. And they found it in the basement floor tile and also in the utility floor tile.
Who
So
did
when
the
you talk-
report?
What's that?
Who did the report? What was the company's name, please?
ATC.
What is it?
ATC Associates.
Thank you.
So, I'm not an asbestos expert. I don't claim to be. I don't, but I'll share with you what I know about asbestos abatement and this council too. So, basically, you have 2 types of asbestos-containing materials, and they could be classified 2 different ways: friable and non-friable. Friable, friable basically means when you touch it, you're doing demolition. Does it crumble apart and have particles that become airborne? Or is it something like a wall panel or a floor tile that could easily be removed? So you guys are correct. Asbestos abatement demolition is more expensive. But fortunately, all the asbestos found in that building is, in my opinion, at this stage, without knowing right now what we're going to demolish and what we're not going to demolish, is non-friable material. Meaning, and furthermore, again, it was done in 2005. You know, we don't know, but I'm assuming the floor tile didn't change significantly since 2005.
Yeah, it has.
So the report states, these materials were noted to be in generally good condition. Certain identified asbestos-containing materials will be required to be abated due to future planned renovations, as others would be permitted to remain in place with no real concern for potential asbestos fiber exposure, as long as the proposed renovation activities would not cause any of the remaining asbestos-containing materials to become friable. So what's common in a building renovation, if you have asbestos floor tiles, and if any, I lived in a house, I grew up in a house that was built in the 1950s, and I know we have floor tile in my basement that contained asbestos. What's common in a lot of building renovations is they'll just put a new flooring on top of the asbestos tile. Again, you'd have to get one, you have to figure out what you're going to do. Two, you have to get a professional. Three, you have to figure out what you're going to demo and what can stay, what has to be demoed, and what you want to demo. And then you come up with a plan to get those materials out of there.
Hopefully when they make that decision, they will take into consideration how many bodies are supposed to be in that building. And they're not doing it just strictly for the fact of, we got to stay within the figure of less than $9 million because then everybody's going to get upset. I'm just saying, covering a floor that everybody knows has asbestos to make it look pretty and to make it look new. Would you want to live there? Would you want to work there? Would you want to be in there 8 hours a day or more? Those are my comments. That's what I hope you all take into consideration when you're thinking about all this.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker, Michael Kapp, Willis Center.
Good evening. Since we're on the Willis Center, the mayor last week spoke regarding a letter he got from an engineer who lives in the area regarding the cost and what's included. And personally, I like the idea of being able to take the building, rent out space, get some money in, but I do have issues with not so much the buildings themselves, but what is it going to cost us to have the items moved? Where are you putting your fire department? I mean, back in what, 2009, RS Means, police department was $220 some a square foot. If you plan on tearing this building down, if I understand correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if we have more than 350 square feet of asbestos, we have to abate first, according to the Department of Environmental Protection. Is that correct or incorrect?
Off the top of my head, I don't, 350 square foot, you said?
That's what I had read, yes.
That would be from the Allegheny County Health Department.
Okay.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not.
Well, I mean, it's not your specialty, right? But I'm just looking at it as, if we moved into that other building, we're still going to have to, and you're saying, according to the information we got from you, that we have 35,000 square feet of asbestos in here. We're going to have to abate before we tear it down, which to me then moves, whether we keep this building, we'll have to abate, or whether we tear this building down, we have to abate. So I just, a lot of the costs that don't seem to be there. plus what's it gonna cost us to operate the new building, what's the total cost of renovation, where's our cost benefit analysis, break-even points, you know, how much money do we have to bring in rent, or are we covered? That if nobody was renting the building, we could still afford to be there. Especially like if another issue, TCB, if they are bought out and leave, one of the things was 15 parking spaces. I was under the impression we were only talking about one parcel, but somebody this evening mentioned 2 parcels. So are we going to be getting those 15 parking spaces, whether TCV is there or not? I mean, if somebody else comes in and buys.
Yes, that's guaranteed by written agreement that'll be recorded with the deed.
Okay.
They're all tied together. If this borough council votes to take the parcels, then we have an automatic easement agreement that's recorded and they're reserved forever.
Okay. And then the last thing, I mean, I remember Westfield before the renovation. Last month, somebody referred to it as a hidden gem. And the one thing with tearing this building down, the field's no longer hidden. Again, it has its pluses and minuses. I read that the renovation was going to cost $6 million. I think last week somebody said it was $10 million. If we tear this down, will we be charging non-Munhall residents enough money to cover the extra wear and tear on the field? You know, people are going to see the field, which is good in one way, but bad to me as to how many people we're going to have on the field just coming on and using the field without booking it. So just odds and ends, and then also, of course, the extra cost of, since the police aren't going to be right here, do we have to have police officers? What about actual cleanup? You know, kids playing is one thing. When you have colleges, if they're having college students, are they going to be, well, things that college students bring, beer, anything else that's going to cause cleanup or possible problems. So those were some of the things, but mainly making sure we include all of the costs for the buildings, especially like since it's 1964. I didn't see anything in there regarding the elevators since their end of life, and I didn't see anything for the security, you know, for the police moving over. On the initial, it said we were taking 10,000 square feet, I think, and then last week I thought I heard that the police were moving over, which would be an additional 6,000 square feet, and then all the security requirements. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker, Sue Ballas.
Okay, I would just like to say good evening, and for the record, my name is Sue Ballas. I live on Shady Avenue in Munhall. I would like to thank council for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. First, let me reply to the mayor's wife. Okay. She stated that when she went on to last week, she stated that when she went on to the borough's website, she saw the planning board's prior president's name who no longer served was still listed, and that my son-in-law and myself were now members. Both of us have been members for years. You said the rumor on the street was that the councilman's wife and son-in-law were now on the planning commission. You referred to an appearance of improprieties and that there was a conflict of interest, and that as immediate family members, we both are serving on the planning board. I have brought a copy of the State Ethics Act, and I suggest that you review it further to understand it. On page 6, it refers to immediate family as a parent, spouse, child, brother, or sister. Also, the term financial interest is defined as any financial interest in a legal entity engaged in business for profit, which comprises more than 5% of the equity of the business or more than 5% of the assets of the economic interest in indebtedness. A conflict of interest also refers to immediate family. I do not own a bar, an insurance agency, a restaurant, a plumbing or notary business, nor do I own any property in this borough except for my primary residence. My son-in-law works for a nonprofit. I would also like to comment on a statement made by another member of the planning board at last week's meeting. First, he stated he takes this position seriously. We all do on the planning board. You asked, what is my job on the planning board? First, the book you mentioned, and we all have a copy of, is the Borough Zoning Code Book. The planning board is explained in the Borough Code Book and follows the PA Municipalities Planning Code as provided by Munhall Council. The PA Municipality Planning Code states a planning agency at the request of council prepares and presents recommendations to council. We all had to write a letter of interest to the borough manager to be presented for consideration to council. You were not the only one to do that. Our job is important, but it is a limited position. We do not have a final say in any decisions, we recommend only. I have copies of those duties too, if you would like to review. I don't understand why now, after I have served on the planning board for over 10 years, and my son-in-law for 6 years, you have a problem with us. We sit at a table during these meetings, and never once have you addressed this issue with us. Besides my 10 years on planning board, I served 21 years on the Still Valley School Board. But my son-in-law is the amazing one. He is out in the community almost every day of the week, working with our youth. They know him and love him. This town needs more people like him. Thank you for your time.
Mrs. Ballas, I just wanted to respond. I don't think you understood. My concern was...
You're not on the agenda tonight, I mean...
It's a public meeting, I'm allowed to respond when you're...
I'm gonna have to ask for the solicitor.
I have the law on the board. I have the law here, I'm entitled to speak.
First of all, we have registered speakers. I'm just giving the law since I was asked. You have to register to speak on any subject, or you can speak on an agenda item. That is correct.
So you'll let me speak later? I think she misunderstood my comments.
Well, you can speak on agenda items. That's called for later in the meeting. Speak on agenda items. So,
It is an agenda item.
I'm just telling you what the law is. I'm
I
in
have the
terms
law
of.
right here.
What he's saying is we call for that later in the meeting, to speak on agenda items.
I just thought it made more sense to address it right now to close any misrepresentations that were made. It seems like now is the perfect time to address it, rather than an hour from now, but that's fine. But yes, I am allowed to speak.
Okay, we're gonna move, Ryan McConnell on the Best of the Batch Foundation.
Good evening to you guys. My name is Ryan McConnell. I live at 105 Wayne Road. And I am the Director of Operations at the Best of the Batch Foundation. I decided to come speak before you guys because our phones have been blowing up all week after last week's workshop, along with visitors that came through. And I found that it was going to be a lot easier that if I provide you with information, I'm going to provide all of council with my business card and welcome anyone in attendance, along with anyone at council that has any questions of anything that we're doing. We'll be happy to sit down. I gave tours of the building to 4 different people this week that had questions. We sat down. I probably spent 20 minutes with each person, explained exactly what we're doing. We have been in this building right next to the Borough building since 2005. What I'm going to do, we're actually passing out sheets so you guys can get some information on what's going on. As soon as the fences went up around our building, that's when questions started happening. So we figured, provide you guys with information, I'll provide you with my information, and I'll be happy to answer any questions on that as far as that's concerned.
Thank you.
Yeah, one. I also brought my executive director because we received some phone calls that made it seem like this was going to be a question and answer type deal. I was simply coming to provide information just so there's no misconception of what we're doing. So, I mean, if it's up to you guys how you want to handle it. If you want questions and answers, I brought my executive director, Latasha Wilson, with us, and we'd be happy to field whatever questions that people have on the building.
I'm fine with that.
Final question and answer?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, you want to start with questions?
I'm back. I do have a question to ask you. I did speak with Natasha and Kelsey the other day because I wanted to know what was going in there, okay? She informed me that, if I'm not, these are the words I have written and I repeated them to you, Natasha. This is not a school, and it is not our intention to be a school.
That's
Okay?
absolutely correct.
So my question is, I went on your website with my Poor People's Health, I thought, and I guess I would like to know, 3 activity rooms custom for elementary, middle school, and high school.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you have written down, or I have written down that you've had 3,200 kids. You represent, grade represents 22 school districts, 6 counties. I'll put it just straight out. What are you doing over there with all these kids?
So, okay, so to make it this, out of actually it's 38, as of this year, it's 3,800 kids we serve in 7 counties. Out of those 3,800 kids, about 1,100 come through our physical door in our calendar fiscal year. They come from anywhere in the surrounding school district in the Mon Valley area. But our main focus is the children here. So every day after school, like today, we had 70 kids after school in our building today. They were all Steel Valley students. And there was, out of those 70, 6 of them were Propel students that come up from Propel. So that's to show the brain part. When we talk about that, so for years everybody knows us as Project Chuck, our summer basketball program. That program has 358 kids. In that one particular program, we serve, there's 11 school districts in that one program alone that we have here every year. And the kids actually have to attend mandatory study hall in our building for that. So that puts those numbers, and we have to do our statistics and our number for the population and people that we serve. We do that, but our main base is always the Steel Valley, is always our #1 priority. So like this is the only school district that, today, we gave out every teacher in the district got teacher's bags and stuff today, which was valued at $26,000 today that we handed out. So every teacher in the school district today. So that just told you the number of the population and people that we're serving. Does that make sense? So we go to the other places, we go to other districts and we do programs in other districts. So like 2 weeks ago, we were up in Newcastle. We did a 2nd grade project up in Newcastle with some of the STEAM programs and some of the backpack programs that we do. So those count as our statistic numbers because we're providing services for them too as well through our other programming. When we adopt a family, we adopt 123 families every holiday season. In the Steel Valley area alone, because we work with the school guidance counselors, they know family dynamics the best. We have delivered toys to over 63 families in the Steel Valley area to families and children to provide for the holidays. If you don't believe me, some people have come by now. It looks like Christmas threw up in my upstairs of my building right now. Our building is right next door. You're able to walk through at any time of day. We're there 9 to 5, Monday through Fridays, always. If you want to see when kids are there, kids come right after school, pretty much starting at 2:30.
I thank you because I think these programs are wonderful. They do. And I think all of us want to think that this is what's happening. But as taxpayers here, as residents who live nearby, I think many of us are concerned about the incident. What type of students? Are my children allowed to come down and enjoy the gymnasium with a walk-in tour, the cyber cafe? Is this open to every
It's open to everybody.
Doors are open now to everybody.
Everybody. If anybody came here and said, I need to use a computer to print something off or to do some research, you're more than welcome to come in to use our facility.
We do tutoring after school. We do homework with kids after school. We provide computers. We do activities with kids. We serve them an additional meal after school because we found out the kids are eating at about 10:30 in the morning. And some of these kids, that was the last meal they were going. So we had partnered with Rainbow Kitchen. Now they actually provide a meal for us at no cost for any kid that walks through that door. And we have older kids that will just walk into the building, eat, and they'll leave. We don't care. It's a service we're providing because it was a need we saw.
I think this sign is commendable. I I won't kid you. I know another concern for many of us is the parking. So please, tell us where the parking is going to be so that people on Orchard Street are not
Correct.
they have no parking, and they're going to be parking down on 2nd Avenue.
So we will have our parking. We will have 8 to 10 spaces for parking. And most of the people that we're serving in our building do not drive. So we will have the correct amount of parking spaces that we have for our additional team and staff.
I got it.
And to address the actual classrooms, you had said about there being elementary, middle school, and high school. Right now, we have one big classroom right now. It's in order to separate that so that we can do activities and things like that that are just for elementary kids. Right now, we're kind of just grouping it together and doing one activity because we just don't have the space. That'll allow us to break them up age group wise and do activities that are more to their age level.
So my high school kids are not sitting in my office on my floor.
Right. Instead of doing
that'd be the thing for them.
Instead of doing the egg drop challenge that we did last year.
Don't I love you when I make this final comment, but hearing that you wanted to raise $7.6 million, God bless you. Don't laugh, but I'm just saying. Did you ever consider the Willis property? Because it's a long piece of property with a lot of parking, and it would serve folks. It would save our buildings, and it would be using Willis. I know, Ryan, you got to think on both sides of the house, but I did.
So we knew from several years ago that there was issues with that property. So yes.
So correct me if I'm wrong. This is not a school?
No. So where the word school comes from is that Steel Valley School District houses for the past 8 years prior to this year was the alternative education program was housed in our building through the school district using our building. That was done by it was a Steel Valley teacher and Steel Valley aide. Now we actually have the Educational Support Center for elementary school being piloted in our building now because when we expand, the goal is to have the kids for those pilot programs to be able to come in. So right now I have a Steel Valley School District teacher and an aide that's paid by the school district. And it's their program that they have. They work with the kids for transition. If they can't perform in a classroom environment, how can we work with this child to get them to be able to perform in the classroom environment and to become successful in life?
So basically our school district is supplying 2 teachers, 2 paid borough teachers, school district teachers, in a place that's not a school.
No, but we are upstairs. It's all been cleared and stuff. If you walked in through our building, it's set up as a school.
But it's not a school.
It's considered an educational facility.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
It's set up as a classroom.
And the reason I stood up and I wanted to ask a question is because basically in Mrs. Ballas's comment up there, I was sort of like implicated because I did make a statement at the workshop last week about it being, Ryan, you're on the board, you're whatever, you have family members and stuff on the board. And it's just so funny that when it comes down to a recommendation, right off the get-go, we have 2 yay votes towards the recommendation. Now, let me finish.
I did not say a word.
At the workshop meeting, Mr. Cannon had said that we do not need the planning commission okay for a school. Well, we just found out tonight that it's not a school, so obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, we do need the planning commission to recommend what we do.
No, it's an educational facility, which is considered an educational facility.
It's not a school, Dave.
It's an educational facility. They're running a school program.
Is it a school or is it not?
No.
It's not a school.
It's an educational facility.
We're educational
It's not a
facility.
school. It's not an accredited school, so by rights, whatever has to be done has to come through the planning commission. Am I right or wrong? Ryan?
Okay.
It has to come through the planning commission.
Clarify something.
I only can answer questions about this.
Okay, hold on. Here, let me. It's also considered a residential or a recreational facility for children, right? Okay. Permitted uses. The following principal and considered uses permitted in R1 area: single-family dwelling, a church, essential services, a recreational facility, a school. Temporary uses under Article. So this is an educational facility, a recreational facility for kids. It's going to have a gym. It's also going to have a dance studio.
Correct.
Am I not correct?
Correct.
You're also going to have 3 learning centers for a child.
But what is it? But what is it? Tell me.
We're
Give
an
me a name.
educational foundation.
Give me a name.
I think it was answered, I think it's an educational facility.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna be teaching kids there, kids will be playing. I can clarify something real quick, because.
I defer to Jim.
Okay, I'm the washed up old chairman of the planning commission. After 30 years of service, the borough wouldn't renew my membership. Ryan was at many of our meetings. I think what we're lacking is, yeah, the school's a permitted use. Here's the neighborhood, predominantly residential. All of a sudden, people see something unusual happen. Okay? So, what the borough, the right way to do it, you're not obligated to have public hearings or nothing. Just, you would have a public hearing for informational purposes, just like you're doing right now. But you would let everybody know and come and do your presentation, because people just, they get nervous.
Back in April of 2017, we came here and we did a whole presentation. I brought the architect, I brought the engineer, I brought my board, I brought board members,
I'm saying,
no, that's what you're saying.
If we would post it, because most people, the only people really knew that we're here. You know what I'm saying? Especially with all the adjoining properties, it's a dramatic change here.
So I apologize for the surprise, and just to give a little bit more of it. So during the campaign, to raise $7.5 million, it doesn't happen overnight. And so we've been raising $7.5 million for the past 4 years. So it's called silent phase, a capital campaign. So when you're in silent phase, because we can't go into public phase until we have 70% of the funds committed. We have 70% of the funds committed. We are 1.7 away from $7.5 million. And therefore, that's why you see the fences up now, because now, according to my bylaws and my board members, we're now allowed to start transition. So what you see right now, we have asbestos. We're preparing for abatement. Abatement is going to start on 2 of the properties, and then from there we'll go into demo. We will not start construction until February. Shovels will go into the ground in February. It takes about 9 to 12 months to build. You are all invited to participate in this. This is not just something that we're building for ourselves. We're building it for the community. We're building it to help change lives of people and individuals that are sitting here in the room and people that will be sitting in this room way beyond when we're long gone. It's about leaving a legacy for people that we care about. I'm a Jersey girl. So, you know, it's about, I'm sitting up here getting emotional to leave something behind. And I just need to know why, or, you know, what else do you need to know?
Well, there again, I remember, Ryan, I remember you bringing in the pictures and stuff that you
had at the board's request. I made a presentation.
And you showed us. And please, I don't want to be misunderstood. I meant no malice with my comment at last week's meeting. I meant no malice. I want to say this in front of everybody. But I do have a problem with somebody who is affiliated with the organization casting a yay or nay to whether we recommend or whether we do not recommend.
Okay, well, let me stop you there.
No, wait.
When we had done the consolidation of the lots, I abstained from voting.
Yeah. But here
I did not vote on that, and I will not vote on anything that has this name.
What's really funny is, up until last week's meeting, where this was brought up, we knew nothing other than what you brought into the meeting. I don't know, did anybody else know anything about it? Yes or no?
It was in the Pittsburgh magazine. What year was it in the Pittsburgh magazine?
It was in 2015. It was in Pittsburgh magazine.
It was when it was an idea.
And it's been around, and our signs have been posted around, like when we have events and stuff like at Barrett, we have the things there,
But isn't it just funny that after the fences and stuff went up, you said your phone started getting blown up? Sure. Isn't it funny that nobody knew that the fences were going up? Fences are up, they're not there one day, they're there the next day. Your phone starts getting blown up, and now you guys are here. It's just something.
No, it can't. The reason why we're here is because comments and stuff that were made at last week's meeting. Well, I'm not here because of offense. I'm here because things were said. You know, being called like my salary gets donated back to the foundation. So my passion is way beyond what you could ever imagine. So the fact that we're here is because things were said, that there was a lot of confusion. I spoke to Ms. Frost. She took time to call to say, hey, are you guys housing, are you a detention center? Are you housing, jail students? Are you doing this and that? I'm here to clear that up. Like, no, that's not what we're doing.
Do you realize that that's what we have heard for the last however long?
But that's how rumors start.
But here again, you knew that was happening. Why have you not?
Let me ask you a
because
question.
I never knew that. You thought that way until last week.
I never heard, until last week, I never heard the stuff about the school that was coming forward now.
And Mr.
I told it to these guys.
If these are the rumors
this is
that
a
you're
great thing
you're being
for the
told.
Still Valley.
I've
for
served for
Munhall.
6 years on a planning commission,
Let's not beat
sat
these
next to
people
you.
up.
I've
Yeah.
coached your kids. Why would you not bring that to my attention?
Well, the whole thing, because we actually made no recommendation one way or another. So basically, it was a moot issue as far as we were concerned. But then we see action being taken, and it's like, what's
But it's no different. We could demo those buildings if we're gonna make it a lot.
But
It
you know
doesn't
what,
matter.
Ryan, here again, at last week's meeting, Mr. Cannon had said that it did not have to go through the planning commission. Now being that it's not a school, correct me if I'm wrong, it has to go through the planning commission.
It's an educational
facility or recreational facility.
I hate to do this, but I have a copy of your request to remove the lot lines, okay, back 2017. And what come up was, and we've done it the last couple of years we've had it, you own both lots of record in the exact same name. You don't need a subdivision, but you go to the borough. Now, as a courtesy, everybody that's done it has come to the planning commission to review it. And we either say there's nothing wrong with doing it. Then the next week at a council meeting, it should be a vote on the floor that the borough manager forwards a letter to the county real estate department. Then they'll go ahead and change all the lot and block numbers and everything. Now, I don't remember, I know that letter that I believe you're, actually, it was signed by you, and it had all the numbers there. I guess nobody remembered making a formal, did the borough send a letter to the county to request the removal of the lot line?
The county had the contract.
What happened, they did a consolidation plan. According to you're close to being, you did one of the things. The brief criteria they have to meet is they have to be the owner, there has to be one owner on all 3 or 4 parcels. You have to have no mortgage on any mortgages, and you also, there can't be an alley or a street in between the things.
They have to be continuous lots of record.
Right, with no alleys. If they meet these 3 criteria, they actually, I have a copy of it, they brought this in. She had a sign it, someone had a witnesses, the borough engineer had a sign off, and I had a sign off, and Joe Verhola and Wolf Falls had a sign off saying that, you know, we give their permission. That's all. And the other people, if someone else comes in and they just want to combine 2 lots, all they actually have to get is the manager's signature saying, yeah, we okay it, because we, as long as people meet those 3 criteria, you can't refuse.
Okay.
That's all.
I think what come up, back several years ago, we did it for a gentleman, and I had talked to the county. They have a specific procedure here, partial combination procedure. The bottom line is as a courtesy, the planning commission would review it, because we would review the basis of the conformity that the borough engineer has his shot at it. Ultimately, if the borough approves it, the borough manager, and I got it right here if anybody wants to read it, it's back from 2013, that the borough manager submits a letter on borough letterhead to the county that it can be done. Then the county people would change the lines. Then they would also say you were not a nonprofit. They would also change the value and everything. Right now, the property is only valued for the 1 house. The problem I see is that, say you guys decide to sell it all, and all of a sudden it's not a nonprofit. I think the real value should be on the deed. When you look up on the real estate, it should have the real value. But that's, and I guess the question come up: do we have a copy of the letter from whoever was borough manager?
That I don't know. I mean, we did what we were asked
That's
to do.
what
I brought the sheet to you. You signed it. I brought it to the borough, and they passed it along. And it's been consolidated through the county.
I know
so,
it's been-
like, this is everyone's signature and everything like that on it. So as far as I know, we did exactly what we were supposed to because the county granted us,
Well, they do.
consolidation.
They
and
do it
everything
all
like
the
that,
time, but-
So I'm not sure what the
I think
question
the
is
problem
other
was,
than-
they should have just requested a public hearing, informal, and even posted, so all
So
the
you're
adjoining.
saying it should have been a formality. It should have been something that someone recommended to me that we should open this up to public instead of just going
Well,
through
I'm
the
talking
chain of
about
command.
what you want to do with the property.
Okay, I got you.
I mean,
Okay. I
and
understand.
then that would clear up, people that are adjoining property owners know, hey, there's a meeting that I can go and see what's going on.
Right.
And now you're stuck going here, there, and everywhere.
Right.
Because it's going to happen, because what you want to build, I know is going to require, it's going to be tough to meet some of the zoning requirements. You know what I mean? It's going to be posted and the whole deal. So that would have solved a lot of the grief. I don't remember that being done.
Well, Ryan, I do apologize if it sounded like I had malice towards you and or the project that you're involved. That was not my intent. That was not my intent. My problem was where it was a school and we didn't have to know anything about it. I sort of didn't like that. And also too, when I brought up and I had asked council, Bob, if you remember, what is my job? I go there and I'm serious as a heart attack about what I do on that, and you know that.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all take the same. I mean,
So-
it's not like we go in there and joke. We
So
get
there
there
again,
and do what we do and go.
I know what my
Exactly.
duties are. I know what my duties are. I know what I would vote for or recommend or not recommend. Dave, I did not need you to go down and get it. I know what my duties are. I was just making a reference towards, I wasn't like stupid where I needed to know. Nothing, no offense.
Well, it seemed like you said you didn't know what the.
No, because what was brought up was it should have went through the planning commission, should have went through the zoning board, it should have then went to the council, and you said, no, it didn't have to.
There's no reason for go.
So there again, if there was
It didn't have to go in front of planning, it didn't have to go in front of zoning, because they may have to go in zoning in the future if there's a variance they have to ask for. But the stuff was, actually, reason why I asked Brian, he'll tell me if I'm wrong, I asked Brian because Bill Fleming was on the board, and she asked, hey, whenever there's something big, have them go through, just let them inform.
Now, I was initially told we didn't even have to present to the
So
planning,
there
and I did it
again,
as a
just
courtesy.
what he said, it doesn't have to go through the planning board, basically, we don't count. We don't count.
It's not that you count.
You know what?
There's only certain things
You know,
that have
I
to
mean,
go.
does anybody else have
That's
any
it.
questions?
I'm
I mean,
done.
that's
This is
just,
something
I'd
that-
rather go with the
Yeah.
questions
This has
that
nothing to
Tosh
do-
and Ryan rather
Ryan,
than.
I apologize if you
County
misunderstood my comment.
So I have a question, please. Could either of you or anybody else in the audience, I don't know, can you tell us how, like either an elementary child, a middle school child, or a high school student would arrive at your facility? Do they, the teachers at Still Valley, do they report to somebody, the principal, to you, that, hey, they're causing disruption in my classes, and
So-
3 strikes, you're out, they come to your facility?
So
How
it
does
is,
this happen?
it's a whole structure that the school district has set up, where Mr. Ware, Mrs. Borges, Mr. Shaughnessy, Mr. Walsh, and Ms. Fisher, they came up with a plan, they presented it to the school board. We've been there since Dr. Kanavy's kids been coming to our building as alternative ed since Dr. Kanavy's been there. And it's actually been in the system since they had it down in Salvation Army. So the alternative ed used to be in the Salvation Army building until they got put out of the Salvation Army because they did some rehab in there and got put out of there. So that's how they landed up coming to our building, because we had the space where the computers and the resources were available. So the school district has a system in place of what happens and the type of children they have to send down here. Because some people are not a fit for whether for older, middle school and high school, for alternative ed. Cyber school may be a little more better for them. Or like for now, for elementary school, it's a total different system because there's no such, it's illegal to have alternative ed for elementary school. That's why it's actually educational support center for them. And they go through it, they have an entire educational plan, and they actually have that on file that you're able to read the entire process and procedure that goes through. We do not we do, like I said, it is the school district. I'm there because I have a mental health background, and I'm able to work with students in a different capacity as part of it, from seeing them and talking to them and doing little path workshops with them. Otherwise, we do not do anything pertaining to selecting children or having children or referring children to our building. It's done all through school.
Okay, because it was mentioned, and I'm really happy that you guys are here to clear up a lot of misconceptions that maybe we have had, and you're telling us, that it was also referred to as a jail school.
Yes, that's so
and that's
unfortunate.
very scary. That's scary for me.
Well, that was scary. That was scary for me to hear that too,
Yeah.
because the kids that come there and people that have walked through our building before. There's no bars in our building. I do have security cameras in my building because I have children in my building. So my building's equipped with 36 security cameras.
Right.
My doors do lock on the outside because I protect the children on the inside.
Absolutely.
So, that's the extent of security when it comes to my building. 36 security cameras, and my doors locked, they have to be buzzed in, which most people lock your doors at home, so do it just in case.
And it really hit home for us too, because when it was mentioned, we have 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade students only in that building. And when it was brought to the attention, if we're this jail school or whatever, we housed that for 9 years, and none of you knew it. So, I mean...
We knew, we just didn't
Wow.
know what was in there, okay?
Okay, and that's fine. I'm just saying, like, we've never had a problem there or anything like that. And then when it was brought to the attention, we have the 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
So the only time the police were actually called to the building is when we had a child line situation. And we had 3 different boroughs outside of our building, and we were protecting a child. So if anybody came by and seen a bunch of police cars outside, we had a child line situation. We were protecting a child.
I can speak to that. The only time we've been to your building is when you were notified us.
Thank you.
No other reason. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So I don't know who to call. Yeah.
Just easy one. Do you guys have a mission, and if you do, can you share it with? Well, good.
Yep.
So what would you say it is in a nutshell? What's the mission?
We're an educational facility that uplifts the lives of children and service them to be the best of the batch in life. All the resources and stuff we're able to provide for them.
There's just a couple conflicting things that I see. From the building desk paper that you handed out, and there's a PDF on your website that can be downloaded.
So on the website, that is the current. In your hand is current.
Right.
The website is not the
Why did it
current.
change from 15,000 square feet to 21,000 square feet? And how was, when it was 15,000 square feet, it was 10 million, and now it's 21,000, and you need 7.2.
Okay, so the fact that on the breakdown part of it, there's a $2.2 million endowment that we're going for. So we decreased our price because we're not doing the endowment right now. So that's where the difference of the millions of dollars that your concern is about for that too as well. And then we decreased our programming budget too as well, because that 7.5 includes programming for 5 years to be able to sustain over the year, and also our fluctuation of going up by $275,000 a year for operational costs too as well.
Good. So, I'd like to commend you for all the work you guys do. And also, I spoke with a resident this morning. He walked through your facility yesterday, and he was very, very pleased. You couldn't have been nicer. And he did speak how well he was accepted. And in his words, he said, I was treated better than I was treated at the Borough building when I came to the Borough. So
we'll give them some tips.
So I have to commend you on that. And no one is here against you guys. I think more people want to know how many kids come through the school. When you build this building, how many kids are going to be in the school at a certain in the facility at a certain amount of time?
That will not be determined up to us. That'll be determined up to the school district.
Okay.
So
what will your capacity be? There has to be capacity.
For every activity room can hold up to 30 students. Every activity room. That doesn't include the capacity for the gymnasium. All different parts of the building would have different capacity areas in the entire
So
building.
what will that be? The maximum per se? Say if you're full for a day. 200 kids? I don't know.
I don't know that answer right now.
Okay.
So that would all be pertaining to programming.
Okay.
I'll be able to look at them and do projected numbers for programming and stuff. Because certain days when there's the robotics program going on, or the Lego club, or the dance studio, you know, those are different things. You know, right now, like today was a heavy day for us. We had 70 kids in that building. Right across the street, there were 70 kids.
Wow.
Have you been there, Mayor? How many schools?
I've not been there.
In there?
Should.
After school?
I will.
After school, it's only Still Valley and Propel. That's all we have in there.
Okay, and what's coming?
So afterwards, part of that, depending on the program.
Yeah.
I mean, how many different districts?
I don't know that. Depends. We're going to offer the programming, and if they choose to want to participate. In West Mifflin, you know, they live in West Mifflin. They say, hey, we want to be part of your robotics program. Well, why not?
Women heels, UK,
It just depends what makes sense.
I think they're probably asking school-wise, like.
Oh, for school.
Yes.
Oh, school. No,
Yeah,
school is just Still Valley. Still Valley houses that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Yeah, it's all through Still Valley.
It's all through Still Valley. Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the alternative education program that Steel Valley runs, they just basically house in your building?
Correct.
So, knowing that and working for a school district, that saves the district a considerable amount of money. So for a student to be sent to alternative education for whatever reason they may have said there, it can range anywhere between $18,000 to $60,000 per year per student.
Correct.
So the fact that they are housing in there,
we don't charge
using Steel Valley teachers is huge. That's keeping that district afloat. I can speak to that. I represent the teachers at West Mifflin. It's killing us. So that to me is like, that's a huge cost savings. Complete cost savings at that point. So thank you for providing the space.
I still have a question. I wasn't really done yet.
Okay.
So, after the last council meeting, I was told that someone said that you were gonna take over our parking lot. The plan was for, and I asked everyone on council here last council meeting, does anyone know about a plan to take for the Batch Foundation to take over our existing parking lot now? And I'm asking everyone on council now, and is there any truth to that matter?
There is no truth to that at all. We do not need any additional parcels.
That's one of the rumors that are going around.
Well, yeah,
People come to meetings and find out, or pick up their phone and ask what their favorite councilman.
The only thing we've ever done is like we have done events on a Saturday, like we're wrapping presents for our people that come through. I've come over and talked to the borough manager and the police to let them know there's going to be a lot of people.
I walked over,
and asked permission to use it on that day. Was about it. Yeah,
I've been over and had kids, ice cream with the kids out there.
Mayor's Mike.
I just, again, like the mayor said, I want to thank you for your passion, because I know you guys are very passionate. I know I've donated items, brought it up to Brian for distribution and whatnot. We have to start, we need to invest in our children, but my question is, this building looks pretty nice, and it's gonna, I think a lot of people are gonna wanna come down and use the gymnasium or whatever. Is it only gonna be open on
No, that will change too as well. Once we go into that phase of that too, that will change, be able to do weekend programs and stuff that will have that a little bit more convenient.
Are you ready for all of that? I know this is like still in the making,
yes.
but are you guys prepared?
Yes, so we've been doing surveys the entire time to collect from our strategic plan that's going on continuously, to working also with consultants to see what is going to be the best bill for it too as well. Because one of the other places that we look is like the Sarah Hines house over there. What part of town is that?
North side.
Thank you. There were one too as well, as they expanded and how they did their studies to make sure they were able to have the capacity where they needs to be and everything is still very manageable and controlled.
Thank you.
I personally want to thank Ryan and Tasha for coming out here today again, for doing all they do for the Still Valley, and Charlie. Send our thanks to him also. And I think we cleared a lot of things up today, and I'm glad you both came. Very good. Okay, we got one more speaker. We got John Skills. John?
John Skills, 3900 Shady Avenue.
Can you step up, John? Get up there. John up there.
want to know about the progress of the back tax. They've been collected, well, I guess we're going back May of 2017. Munhall was actually number 5 for Allegheny County that owed delinquent taxes. You know, not to compare boroughs, but like if you go on other borough websites, they actually have what they've collected from that month, what they've collected for the year. Just, like I said, just a question about how's the progress going.
I don't have those numbers in front of me. I can tell you I do have this year's in front of me. We have our collectible assessed values, our collectibles should be $3,978,639.10. And the uncollected balance right now is $328,957.63. I would assume that last year was similar to this. We did, I can't throw out no request. I'm more than happy to get that information to you.
From memory, John, I think we usually, and I think Donna McCurry is here, and I think we usually collect around 92%, but that's from memory. You know, I think we're over 90% usually in collection taxes, and then what's not collected then goes out to delinquent taxes, you know, to a delinquent tax collector. She can't collect the delinquent taxes as a tax collector. But I think we do a pretty good job. 92% is pretty high.
Okay, the other one was, why does Public Works Department cut the grass of lots that are deeded to individuals?
Good question.
What was the question?
What's the question?
What was the question?
Why does the Public Works Department cut the grass of lots that are deeded to individuals?
Well, I can probably answer that. If there's a property, whether someone's living in it or not, I post the property in 5 days notice, cut the grass. There's an ordinance from 1984, it's ordinance 1292, which after 5 days, I could have either Public Works or a contractor of the borough go and cut the grass. What happens then is, when our guys go down and cut the grass, they keep track of how many hours, how many men, and every so many years, we go and put a lien on the property. We have to start trying to go down and put a lien on the property.
And that's not a routine practice. That's a last resort.
Right.
We do everything we can to compel the property owners to cut their grass. But if it becomes a situation where there's a health hazard potentially, a concern of rodents, things of that nature, then we do authorize them to go on for the betterment of the community and the neighbors, but we always lien the property to get that money back. So there's a lien filed against the property when we do it, but it is a last resort. We don't want to do it.
Yeah, but what if they don't pay the lien? I mean,
sometimes they don't.
Yeah, well, they can't sell the property without paying the lien, so we have that protection.
Just seems like a waste of my tax money. That's all I'm saying.
If you live next door, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, we get a lot of phone calls that, I mean, we have like 33 empty lots. We used to always tear down buildings and that, and like when I first started, I said, we should need to slow down on tearing down buildings, because every house, I think, in Munhall is safe if you were talking to the right contractors. We had 30, I think right now we have like 33 to 35 empty lots where we tore down the house, we can't find the owners. The neighbors call and say, hey, is Public Works going to come down and cut grass? Our Public Works, we hire 4 to 5 additional summer help just for that. And believe it, like Mr. Tishon said, the people living next to our house says thank you to our Public Works guys for going down there every 2 weeks and cut the grass.
It just seems like there should be a better way to go after the homeowner. That's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you, John.
Bro, I was going to talk under the agenda items, and I was going to talk about the Borough Building Willis Center proposal to table. I just wondered, since there was a lot of discussion on that I could do that now. What's the difference?
I'd rather do it under the agenda items. It is an agenda item.
I beg to differ with the solicitor. All these speakers are part of the agenda. That's why when the paragraph comes up.
Yeah, under agenda items, I think we should just hold off the agenda items. I don't think there's.
I was just thinking, since it's been the ongoing
go through some of this
discussion,
stuff fast.
Right.
I'd rather keep with, what we've been doing on this and do that under agenda items. And that'll all be open. The reports from borough officials, Mayor.
No, thank you. First off, I'd like to thank all of you for coming to the meeting tonight. Give your own staff a little hand of applause. Thank you for coming and giving your input. First off, I'd like to start off that the Halloween parade is going to be October 22nd at 2:30. It was almost canceled, so it is still on for everyone. I've set a couple signs out. Go ahead, clap them. Yeah. 27th. It's the 27th. The 27th of October. It's a Saturday at 2:30. And it is one of the biggest events in our borough. It really is great to see all the kids out there. They have a fun time. I've marched in that parade many years. So that's first on the agenda. Okay, Halloween is October 31st for people that don't know that. We are from 6 to 8. We run the same as West Homestead and Homestead. West Mifflin and Whitaker are 6 to 7:30. I just felt like Ray Bodner saying. Also, Steel Valley Veterans Day program is November 9th at Steel Valley High School. I'm going to attend this year. It'll be my first year that I attend. It's at 9 a.m. I think they have a little breakfast coffee thing at 8:30. Okay? Fourthly, I'd like to address something I spoke with Rob about at the end of the last meeting. And I didn't get to speak at it about the last meeting. There was an accident on Main Street two, 3 weeks ago. It's right on the bend by Park School, right across from Citizens Bank. I think we need to have some protection there for the people in the homes there. As long as I've been a young person, when I was a young person, I can remember cars racing up Main Street, hitting into those buildings. Each one of them houses has been hit several times. There used to be some sort of guardrail system up there at one time or another. I think we need to put one back there. Some sort of a piling barrier might be nice, rather than per se a guardrail. Okay? It would just be a little more appealing. People could still park there and still walk through and get in there. If there is, I think there is maybe one parking spot there. So I think that should be considered. I'm speaking to council on that and to the general public. So take that under consideration. The police, fire departments, the EMS, we all held an active shooter training exercise at the high school. It was done, it was an all-day program. It was very interesting to go there and see how the back door operations of something like that takes place. And I'm going to refer to Pat to speak about that a little bit longer, okay? So I want to just talk about a couple of different things concerning both the Willis Center and the Borough Building. And I did have a copy made of the asbestos report that Joe had from 2005, I think it is. And it does speak about asbestos, and it does list quite a bit of asbestos. And are we taking over the 1924 building?
If we did it.
Is that part of the gift, the 1924 building?
I think if we accept it, yeah, I think it is in the plan.
It is. Is that correct? Is that correct, Mr.
I don't know what the 1924 building is. I know
The
there are two parcels.
what they call the nurse.
Yeah, there are two parcels we're taking, there are two buildings. I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, I'm reading this asbestos report. Have you read it?
No.
No. Has anyone else on the Borough Council seen the asbestos report? Yes. Okay, what's referred to here is the 1924 building and the Willis building. Okay? So I'm going to presume that it is then, if no one else can dispute me and call me a liar. So, that building has asbestos floor tile throughout the whole building. Okay? The fourth floor has fitting and insulation, fiberglass insulation running all through it. The third floor has fitting insulation and fiberglass insulation pipes running through it. The second floor has pipe TSI, whatever TSI might stand for. It has 160 linear feet of asbestos-containing materials, okay? No one's really talking about that other building, and I really honestly have not had a chance to tour that other building. Pat obviously has been through that building, but I've not been through that building, and I would like to revisit that up there. Now that we have 2 months to do that, I think we should definitely do that. The Willis Center has, the basement is, like you had said, 2,100 feet of it. The Willis first floor is not measured. It has 12-inch ceiling tile adhesive. It has 12-inch floor tile on the second floor, 1,300 feet square of asbestos-contained material, okay? I saw multiple areas where there was pipe insulation that isn't listed in here as well. The tunnel, which I know we do have tunnel work to do in that area, also is listed with, where is the tunnel at? There's so much asbestos over there, it's unbelievable. So I think we need to definitely take a second look at it. And honestly, that should have been brought up in these technical memorandums. That should have been a defect in the building. It is a defect in the building. They knock buildings down because they're so filled with asbestos. So that just takes care of this, and we should have had this. If I would have had this last week, I would have said to me, Mr. Stein, there is asbestos in that building. The reason why I spoke to people last week and said, I'm not sure if there's asbestos, or I question that, is because I didn't have this report in my hand. Now I do have it in my hand, and there is certainly asbestos in there, and a lot of it, okay? The cost, I don't know what they will be. So I'm going to repeat myself just a little bit because there's a lot more people here, and I just want our engineer to take a second to think about what I say, and he can certainly give me any rebuttals or whatnot, but I'm just going to go through a quick list here. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I do want to mention what I have to say. The exterior walls are uninsulated and would fail in energy code compliance. They are brick and tile. There is no insulation in the buildings. And that's not mentioned in there. The floors are steel beams and open bar joists, and I'm sure they'll need fire protection underneath of there. Maybe the engineer can explain what fire protection might be for buildings of that nature. I'm not sure. The building is entirely floored with asbestos floor tile. I don't know that. From what I'm reading here, there may be one floor that doesn't have it, but I'm sure it's all going to need to be tested again. I did go through there and tried the windows. The windows didn't operate. Half of them didn't work. You know, and I know it's not listed in there, and I know that we put up such a high number on it that we can cover all those costs. The roof is leaking water through, because when I went through it, it had just rained and there was water coming through the building. So that tells me that there's water up there in that roof. The decking is probably rusted somewhere up there, and mold is probably growing in there. Now that the fire chief is here, maybe he can answer, will the building need sprinkler systems in it? I'm not sure. Outside of the building needs the parapet. You can see the top of the parapet. It definitely needs some work done to it. There is loose cracks and whatnot through there. The interior walls, they are made of plaster, steel, metal lath, tin steel construction. I read this asbestos report. I didn't read it totally thoroughly. I'm not sure if the plaster in there, and I've been told that the plaster can have asbestos in it as well. I'm not sure if that was tested or not, but there's a multiple list of things that were tested in here as well. Also, there was fire protection for the steel beams up in there. I'm not sure if they were tested for asbestos or not, but I do know that they used asbestos at that time for fire protection as well. In the basement, there's water and mold in the basement, and let me tell you, it stinks to high heaven down there. If you think the Borough building is bad with water, you really should go over there. It's horrendous, okay? It's really unbelievable. Upon reading both the technical reports, it appears that 3 engineers went through this building, 1 engineer went through the other building. Is that the way it went down, Colin?
Yeah.
So you did that one yourself? You walked through over there yourself?
I did the structural assessment, and then I prepared a cost estimate.
Okay. So it was just...
It was just me.
Right. So, and I mentioned, just to mention that, you know, when they came through the Borough building, I have an office in the Borough building. No one said, hey, Rick, we're going to have a walkthrough here. We're going to have engineers go through here and look at things. I was not privy to any of that. I didn't have any input on it. I had no talk about it, no nothing about that. But I'm just the mayor. You don't have to tell me that. I question if there is any recourse to Turtle Creek. So we signed this obligation up. Oh, the solicitor left. This is what I wanted to ask him. I'll wait till he comes back. So these cost estimates for the Willis Center are basically to do what the municipality is going to use. There's not the cost of finishing out the other whole floor there. So there's another whole floor there that needs to be cost fitted out. And I believe in reading your report, it says that, you know, they're going to do some rough in for mechanicals, but they're not finishing any walls or not plan on any finish work in floor number 2. I guess it would be. Floor number 1, the lower floors of the Borough building.
So my estimate assumed the floor the Borough is going to occupy fully furnished,
Right.
fully finished, millwork, cabinetry. The other 2 floors finished. So suspended ceiling, walls, rough-ins for plumbing, electrical, and mechanical. But will be partitions will be put up. Will be furnished by the occupants.
So it's not totally, it's not a total build out. That's what your report says. I'm just referring to that. I'm not disputing that. I'm just reading what you read.
So 2 of the 3 floors with just rough-ins and partial finish.
Right. Still waiting for the solicitor to come back. So, you know, I question, you know, do we need a 15,000 square foot addition put on the building, our Borough building, at a cost of $2.28 million? And where would we put a 15,000 square foot addition onto this building? I don't know where you could do it. That is a whole floor, almost a floor and a half of the Willis Center. That's huge. How can that number be even thrown into there? I don't get it. Also, I don't get where we spend $1.9 million, we'll call it $2 million, on floor and wall finishes, file storage, furniture, and cabinetry. And then when you go to the Willis Center, it's $500,000. It's $590,000. So, and that building is twice, it's huge. So I don't get where we can justify these numbers, okay? I don't get it at all. So I'm just using those 2 top numbers there, you know. I'm not going through every line item. My intention is not to do that right now. I think we should really look at this a lot closer and have an independent person come in and look at the building, both buildings, and see exactly, you know, what needs to be done. Because these numbers are just skewed from one nay to the other yay. And then withholding the asbestos report from us, that was not right. That was not fair to me. That was not fair to you. So that's about all I have to say for that. But now I'd like to address the way this meeting was conducted at first. And the best of the batch people came up, they answered questions, they made their statement, they said what had to be done. You came up and made your statement had to be done. My wife wanted to rebut you, but she wasn't allowed to speak.
No, it's my job to run the meeting.
It's my floor.
Oh,
I didn't appreciate that. I'm not upset about it. My wife can defend herself.
She's gonna speak.
I know that. It's just the way it was handled. She said something.
I was on the agenda.
I know you were.
Robert
And you were under the agenda, and I heard someone over there say, well, you know, everything is on the agenda, why can't we talk about it? So, but we are going to talk about it. So, I thank council for the time that I spent here allowing me to speak to everyone here and let you know how I felt about all this. I certainly think that we should have a meeting about this subject, like you said. Who said that earlier? Why don't you have the best of the batch have a town meeting and let everyone know? I think we should have a town hall meeting because council is invited to all my town hall meetings. Everyone is invited to a town hall meeting. I think we should have one at the Steel Valley High School so we can have a big enough crowd there to let everyone come and speak so that time is not of the essence, so that people can speak and Robert's rules can be used there as well so people conduct themselves and talk in a conductive way and aren't called liars and aren't called this and that. So I suggest that to you, Rob. If you'd like to do that, I'd be more than happy to do that. I think that people would like that. I think we should put it on our website. I think we should definitely put it on our signs out there in the front. Please come to Steel Valley High School and talk about what we want to do. It should be out for discussion. And it should be totally discussed before it's run through and we make a bad decision. This decision to take this property is one of the worst decisions we could take liability-wise. We actually own that flyover bridge down there, down on the waterfront, and that is terrible. Why Munhall Borough owns that property, that bridge down there, is about as smart can be. And taking that building and the other building, which we need to talk about the other building, which no one's talked about that yet. And I definitely am going to do a walkthrough through that building as well. And we should really, and I think the public should be allowed to walk through the buildings as well. Because I've had people ask at the last meeting, can we walk through here and look for ourselves? We should be able to do that.
Or at least have pictures.
I think everybody should be invited to that walk.
I'm just bringing this up because, you know, I think that's what's needed. There's just been too much of this been run down here. We've had 4 months of time from the time that we took this agreement to the time this meeting would have to have been voted upon. And we just found out that 2 days ago that we had an asbestos report. That's wrong. So I had one question for the solicitor, so he did come back. So I can let me find it if you want. And my question, I don't even need the paper, was this agreement that we have set up. What if Turtle Creek doesn't? What if they they give it to us and they say, you know, we gave it to you, and then they decide we don't have the money to go through with our refurbishing of that up there right now. We're just going to have to wait for a while. We might have to wait 2-3 years before we can get the funds to do that up there. Is there anything on our behalf that or they just walk away and say, you know, we don't want it to be part of it anymore? Is there anything in this agreement that protects Munhall Borough from this?
No, they have the right to exercise an option to take that space and pay rent. They don't have to exercise it. It's not guaranteed.
Oh, that's not
It's been in the agreement since it was first drafted.
That's the first I've heard that.
You have access to the agreement. You could read it. If you looked at it, it's in there. We signed it 4 months ago.
So they don't necessarily have a obligation to take that space up there. And I asked the gentleman from Turtle Creek what are the plans for up here? And I was hoping that someone from Turtle Creek was gonna be here tonight, that they could answer some of the questions on what their uses were gonna be up there, because the people of our town have been asking, what, are we gonna have patients up there? Are we gonna have people there, you know, who need help? And I didn't know what to say. So,
I'm just reviewing, I haven't looked at this in 4 months. They have, from the time the borough would take occupancy, they would have, they must exercise the option no later than 2 years. They would have to take occupancy no later than 2 years from the time we would take the buildings, and the build-out would be at their sole expense. After 2 years, the option would expire. So I was correct in my recollection.
thank you very much. That seals the deal for me. That seals the deal for me, and whoever brought that up, I think council should just say, thank you, but no thank you. I think you should change whatever that number is to, please, we don't want the building. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I do have one other thing I'd like to say, and it was brought to my attention today, and honestly, we do have great fire companies in our borough. We have a great police force in our borough. We have EMT service that services us. We have a great staff here. I was told of this thing that happened, and next meeting I'm going to have these young men come into our council meeting, and I'm going to refer to Kevin on it. Please stand up and please let everyone know what you told me about an hour ago.
Thanks, Mayor, for the time. Thanks,
Mayor,
Council. Thanks.
I got a question for you.
Okay, well, let him speak, and now I'll address your question.
No, go ahead.
It's a comment.
Pardon me?
It's what you said last at the Wednesday's workshop.
Okay, what did I say?
According to the, I watched I wasn't here because I had another commitment, but I watched the video, and on the video, you talked about me and the fire department, and your last remark was that I told you, don't worry about the fire department. And I don't recall ever saying that. And in fact, I know I never told you that. And I would like that removed from the video and from the minutes of the meeting.
Let me address that first, because we'll go to the meeting prior. We were talking. You sat right there, and you said that you had talked to other people about the fire company.
I did.
And what was going to happen over here.
But I never told you, don't worry about it.
And you said, and Mr. Tishon even said to me, I wasn't at that meeting. Quoting
Well, there
Mr.
wasn't no
Tishon.
meeting. It was
Probably
just
wasn't
talk.
at the meeting.
You probably weren't there.
It wasn't a meeting.
Well, was it a meeting or wasn't it a meeting?
No.
Because that's what I.
It was talk among a few people, that's all it was.
Okay, all right.
And the reason they ain't got no meetings on that, because nothing has been done yet.
Well, that's another reason why we shouldn't be moving forward. Absolutely.
Well, why have meetings if for some reason the deal falls through?
The deal?
Oh, you know what I mean.
I didn't say anything bad about you.
You didn't say any bad, but you said. But how does the fire department feel about that when they watch the video and they see I told you don't worry about it?
You told me that you were working on a plan for the fire company not to worry about it. It was going to be taken care of.
No, I never told you not to worry about it. That I said don't worry about it.
Well, I am worried about it because the fire company should have a new fire department or something left when we move out of this building, and no plans are made. And we are concerned about it.
Well, so am I concerned about it.
Well, then what are you yelling at me about? I didn't
did
say
not
anything
tell
derogatory.
I did not tell you, don't worry about it.
Okay.
That's all I want to clear up.
I'm worried about it.
Well, so am I worried about it.
Okay, then.
Let's move on. You're both worried about it. We're all worried. Let's move on.
All right.
And I think we all are. And I think we're all worried about it.
Can I give the floor to Mr. Ondo
No,
for a
I want
minute?
that removed. I want that statement removed from the video.
Why?
Because I do.
Okay.
Because I never said that.
I am
All right.
unable to remove it from the video because back in February, the solicitor said I cannot edit the video.
No, he blocked out.
And I agree with that.
Out of a minute.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Vic.
And I hope I get this right. This is actually on a lighter side. It was told to me last night and also today that two stories that I have heard, and it was an incident and an accident that happened in the borough of West Mifflin. It just so happened that two of our junior firemen from fire company number 5 witnessed the accident. It was a junior fireman who was 17 years old and his younger brother who was 14 years old. They jumped out of their vehicle. The older fellow had his medical bag with him. He started administering first aid and stuff to the accident victim. Unfortunately, the victim had passed away, and I spoke with our fire chief, Eddie Pletch, prior to this meeting. And I hope if I do something wrong or say something, please speak up.
Don't worry, I will.
So anyway, you have to realize that this junior fireman is 17 years old. Not only did he act and react to the situation, his younger 14-year-old brother was phoning 911 for this accident victim until the paramedic or EMTs or whoever showed up at the scene. This young fellow carries his medical bag in his car at all times. A 17-year-old, I'm not going to call him a kid, because somebody who acts like that is not a kid. This 17-year-old young man acted and reacted with expertise with his medical bag that he carries. And also his 14-year-old brother who knew what to do. Think about it. 17-year-old junior fireman. Here's what I'd like to do. First off, I'd like to give credit to Chief Pletch and Glenn and whoever teaches, mentors, and instructs these young men and women to do what they did, to act and react the way they did, and to administer first aid or whatever it took. So, here's what it is. And also, I'd like to give credit to number 5 Fire Hall because that's where they're out of. I'd like to ask the public and to join me in asking Mayor Brennan to issue a commendation to these two young firemen, and also to the men who mentor them and teach them and instruct them and work with them. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
I mean, to have somebody that's a junior, oh, and just a little bit of information, and I asked Eddie if it was appropriate to say this. This particular individual, these two young men are the sons of Officer Dave Smalley. So anyway, I got a little information today on the oldest of Officer Smalley's son. He started junior ROTC in West Mifflin in the 9th grade. He's been with them since the 9th grade. He has maintained a 3.9 to a 4.2 grade point average. He is now awaiting a call from the Air Force Academy to be accepted into the Air Force Academy. And also, too, his goal in life is to go to the academy and become a doctor. That's the kind of youth we need around here, both of them. So again, I would like to ask Rick, you weren't here. Would you please give these two young gentlemen a accommodation for the road?
Absolutely. I will invite them here next month, and we will definitely have an accommodation for them. We need more young men like this. They make us proud to be parents, proud to be people from Munhall, people who step up and do the right thing. Absolutely.
And also, too, I did give credit to Chief Pletch and all the guys who were involved in this, the officers and stuff. We take these guys for granted. We take all our, I would put up, and I told Mr. Pletch, I would put up our volunteer fire companies against any paid fire company You bring them, I'll put our guys up against them. These guys do a fantastic job. When they run into burning buildings or an accident, we're running away. These guys get the credit. Thank you.
Report of the solicitor.
Just one brief item, an update on the rezoning of 9th and 10th Avenue, which has been discussed month after month. In the process, the ordinance is completed. The engineer provided a new zoning map. As required, I sent it to Kay Pierce, who's the manager of the planning division in the county. We have to provide them with 30 days to review and comment. As soon as I hear back from her, the next step will be motion to advertise. And we have to send a written notice to everyone included in this zone, which is a pretty substantial process, but we will do that, and ultimately it will come to vote before council at a meeting when we'll have a public hearing, and there'll be a vote at that time. So more or less just a progress update. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Report of the manager.
Yes, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was last council meeting last week or last month, two speakers came to discuss 210 Washington Street, where there was a hostage situation and the house was left in pretty poor condition. We were being sued by the homeowner, along with the county, the city, the state, and the homeowner's insurance. And I went to the conciliation today at the courthouse all morning to negotiate with the settlement, and we did come up with a settlement today that will allow that to be condemned or demoed and pay and taxes, back taxes be paid. So we got a win today on 210 Washington. That's all I have. Oh, one other thing. We had an IRS issue from 2013. We finally got that resolved working with Congressman Doyle's office and the IRS. They relieved any penalties, and we finally could get that taken away. Getting that off the books, I should say.
Okay, thank you. Report of the engineer.
Yeah, just a couple quick hitters here. So the Harvey Street Extension Shady Avenue project, we opened bids on October 8th. The low bidder was Creative Enterprises. Their bid was $141,805, and we have provided the borough with a recommendation for their letter. Recommendation for award. Catch basin replacement project. You also have my letter of recommendation for that. Creative Enterprises was also there were 6 bidders on the Harvey Street, so real good turnout. We had 5 bids, real pretty tight together. One was kind of higher than everything else, but it's good, good tight scope. Same thing with the catch basin replacement project. I believe we had 4 bidders on that. Creative Enterprises, coincidentally, was also the low bidder on that. We are receiving $40,000 from the county to do that project, but the total project cost is $54,250. And we submitted an application for a grant for $177,000 to do some drainage improvements, install some permeable paving, some bioswales, and do some paving work down on Boone Way and Dixon Street. And optimistic that we'll get some funds for that. I took a couple notes while the mayor was talking. I hope, this isn't a rebuttal, maybe just something I can provide insight on a couple things. So first of all, the discrepancy in costs we talked about for the architectural costs between the 2 reports. So there was actually, in the one for the Willis building, there was actually a 1A and a 1B for architectural costs, and that was due to the fact that what we discussed earlier. So 1 floor, fully finished, fully furnished, borough building's gonna occupy. 2 other floors, ceilings, walls, floors, nothing else. So the cost was lower. So the total cost, if you combine those 2 for the Willis Center for architectural improvements, was $1.3 million compared to the $1.9 that we had in this cost estimate for this building. And the major difference there is we're redoing this whole building here, and we're only doing essentially doing one floor with rough-ins and rough finishes in the other building. So that was the reason for the difference. And then number two, the reason I included an addition in the cost for this building in the 15,000 square feet, that was just a number. That is something that would have to get vetted out during the design, or the necessity for the addition. But when I was here, when we talked to the police, when we talked to the borough staff, the offices here are pretty much tapped out. It was clear the police didn't have enough space, and there's really no room to expand here. So I wanted to present you guys with a conservative number, and that's why I included the money for the addition. Again, once you get in the design phase, you might determine that less square footage is required, or it's not required at all if you're able to repurpose some space. But that was my logic. The fireproofing issue, so it's all in the International Building Code here. There's sections dedicated to fire protection, sprinkling. To be honest, the fire chief probably knows more than me, but the crux of it is you have to determine a use class for the building. So a municipal building is typically Class A, which is an assembly group, but there's going to be a lot of office space in this new building too. So once you determine an occupancy load and a class for all, so business classification has different fire protection requirements. Assembly uses would typically require a sprinkler system. There are some ways to get around it by providing, wall systems that have increased fire rating. But you would be looking at some sprinkling probably, and at least on one floor where there was going to be assembly areas where, like this, where people from the community would come in and there'd be a lot of people congregated in one room. So I did look at the cost of a sprinkler system. It's not named implicitly in my report. I think the mechanical cost that I had in there would roughly cover it. But you're probably looking around somewhere for $3 a square foot. So you're looking at maybe, I don't know, $30,000 per floor higher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's if you don't need a pump.
I do it for a living. It's $9-10 a square.
$9-10 a square foot for a retrofit job. This was something.
That's new. What you read.
Yeah.
Retrofit's new.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's be realistic about it all. I mean, I'm gonna speak on that.
Okay, you still have the floor, you still have the floor.
That's fine. And again, so it's higher. So you're talking if you have to sprinkle one floor. I don't know. There's no design right now for this building. That's the next step. You need to figure out where you're going to be and what you're going to do.
Can I just speak to you? I have no malice either, like you said. I'm talking to you. When I talk to you, I mean nothing against you personally. These are just questions that I have. Questions that I have are questions, and that's all they are, questions. And facts need to be brought out, like what Greg brought out, which I never knew that tonight. That's the biggest question to answer tonight for me. No, that makes it a no deal. I'm sorry.
I take no offense. Like
Good.
I said, there was a couple things.
None taken, none given either.
Yep. So, okay, so the fireproofing obviously will have to be worked out during design. There are steel beams in there. We have to determine, what's required in conjunction with the sprinkler system. Just one other quick thing on the asbestos. So this report was done by Dennis Ritko, licensed with the PA department, licensed asbestos building inspector, management planner, state certified asbestos inspector, obviously. And then it goes on to say he tested all accessible areas for suspect asbestos containing materials. And I did go back here to his bulk sample reports, and it did look like he tested spray on concrete ceiling He tested mastic, he tested plaster, he tested drywall, and the 4 areas that he found asbestos were the areas that we discussed earlier. So it was in the ceiling tile, adhesive in the floor tiles, on the second floor basement tile.
And the other building is throughout the whole building. It's what he said.
In the pipe insulation. TSI is thermal system insulation, so it's the insulation for the pipe.
And honestly, I walked through the building and I picked up a tile and I was going to bring it here. And I thought, I'm not bringing it here because I'll be accused of bringing a piece of asbestos into our borough building, and I didn't want to be accused of it because I knew I would be. So I didn't bring it. It is loose through the whole building, everywhere. You know, it's 10, 15 years of rain and moisture, and condensation, hot and cold. It's popped a lot of places. So, thank you, Colin.
No problem. Does anyone else have any questions?
No.
I do. Is this fit getting this other building just on your council, or does the borough of Munhall?
Okay, that would be really, I've stopped other people who might make this, I don't want to start with you. That would be under questions for consideration, really. So, I welcome you to ask that. But one of the reasons that I've stopped other people tonight is because there's items for consideration where I want that to be taken at, because if my duty as the president is to manage the meeting, to move it along. If they don't feel like I'm doing a good job, they can vote me out. But that's my job, and I want to do it properly. There's a time and a place when the question's asked, and that'll be for items for consideration. And you're welcome.
I didn't know.
Just hold that till then. I know you don't have a lot of it, but I'm not upset. Okay, we're gonna get through a couple more things here. Public Works Supervisor, any report from him?
No, he left the report in your packet. He's ill tonight. Was unable to attend.
Okay, Chief, please, Chief.
Mr. President, I will be brief as I can. For the month, 499 calls for service, 38 arrests, 58 citations issued. Also, the mayor spoke of the active shooter drill we had last Monday, the 8th. I know a few people brought up about the fire department, and in this particular drill, they use something that's called the incident command system. They use it on every call they go on. Typical police departments don't use that. In an incident like this, I've leaned on Eddie very heavily to help me with this. And I'm going to tell you, he's been wonderful to me and for our guys, because it's something that we're trying to implement in a situation like that, in which we would deal with like a mass casualty incident. And I can't say enough. On the 8th, we got there about 7:30 in the morning. It was every police officer from Munhall, Homestead, West Homestead, fire department from Munhall, Homestead, West Homestead, MAPS. We also had the emergency management coordinator for the county there in the afternoon with us. We had police officers there from West Mifflin. It was a pretty big deal, and everything went well. I wish we'd got a little more cooperation from the school, but that's another subject. But we had some of our firefighters take time off their job. They took vacation days to come and volunteer and help us do this training with the school and the other services and the teachers. And it was a good day, no injuries. I think a lot of lessons were learned there that day. And like I said, I've leaned on Eddie with the incident command thing, and he's been absolutely fantastic with it. So that's the end of my report. Any questions?
No, great job. I heard that evening we were packing bags, what we collected at Community Day, getting our bags ready to go out to and one of the people who were helping us was someone who worked for a school, and they told me, excellent job, and they said to thank you.
And like I said,
they haven't already done
planned this over what, three month period. We met every Monday here across the hallway with fire, police, EMS, the superintendent of schools for about 3.5 months every Monday, just trying to prepare for this. And like I said, I thought it went pretty well. We did a similar one on a smaller level, probably about a month and a half earlier at Park School, and I believe Homestead ran the same drill up there at the same day. And we have some other facilities that we're looking to do that with in the near future. One of our schools on Main Street, and also down the waterfront. We did post on our website that this would be happening, so if you've seen all the police cars, the fire trucks, the ambulances there's no call for alarm. It was a training session. When we do the next one and the one after that, we will do the same thing. We'll let everybody know what we're doing. There's no, no panic. It's just training. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Fire Chief Ed.
Thank you, Mr. President. First thing, Mr. Rondo, I want to thank you for recognizing that some of our youth in the fire department went over and above the call of duty. I'd like to remind everybody, and we certainly appreciate that, but our fire departments are full of young and energetic and community-oriented people. It's our job as senior leadership in the department to help that youth grow, because they are the leaders for tomorrow. Because I'm going to be long gone, and those guys are going to be leading the department. So that's our job. We certainly do our best to try and mold those people into those. I will tell you that in that case of those two individuals, they're just carrying on a long family tradition, like many of us are. Their father, their uncle, and their grandfather were all firefighters serving here in Munhall. So they're just carrying on a long tradition. So to council,
thank you.
Right, it's our pleasure to serve. To council, we responded in September. We responded to 58 calls. I actually left some off of there. There was some water calls that we just couldn't keep track of, but we actually put in about 2,200 man hours, a little better than that in September. Fire Prevention Week was held. It was last week. There were a couple days we put in. St. Teresa's K through 3rd grade. We met with about 110 children. That was run, as it usually is, by Len Cole. He handles that stuff for us. We got to 110 roughly students and talked to them about fire prevention. And Friday, it was at Park School. They did a K through 4th grade. They did about 420 students. And Lenny has never missed one, but he unfortunately wasn't able to make it. I want to thank Glenn Coles, my deputy chief, for taking the ball with that. It was lunch with the firefighter. Everybody seemed to enjoy it up there. So very much appreciated, guys. Good job. Got all that youth on fire prevention. Thank you.
Thanks, Lenny.
I think I'll just stop right there. It's a long meeting. So does anybody have any questions for the fire department? Thank you all.
Code enforcement.
You have a copy of my report. I have nothing else to report on. Any questions for me?
There's one thing that I just want to mention. Lenny Cole's been doing this for how many years now? And he's did a fine job on it, and he's been doing a fine job, and he goes out his way to do this, and I think he deserves some kind of recognition for it.
Agreed. That's right.
So maybe we can put that in order at one of the meetings and recognize him in a proper way.
Agreed. Stand up.
I've been doing it for 35 years. Kids love it. I love it. Mr. Cole.
Thank you.
Our next block is the senior citizen high rise, and we call them the recycled teenagers. We've done the whole senior citizens building in preschools too. So they enjoy it, the children enjoy it, and a lot of the firemen enjoy it. Especially at Park School, they have recess for the children. We get them all wound up and send them back in the classroom. So we have to hand out early course for them, so they can take them home for their families. And we always tell the kids, I said, sorry to tell you this, but you have homework. And I gave them a pamphlet, and I said, you have to give this to your mom and dad. So, that's all I do. But I still respond to fire as much as I can.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks,
Okay. Public comments on agenda items. Okay, I know we have Jim that has one here. You have to.
This is on the, I guess you guys have a motion to postpone Willis. So I'm gonna go back to the beginning and the report that you guys did. The other gentleman spoke to the same side. So the two reports are so lopsided. I don't think the borough should reimburse anybody for it. Because means cost, if it says $10 a square foot, it doesn't matter if it's in this building or that building. And when you know what, a professional estimator with years of experience, you know what they'll tell you? If you say, well, that's what the mean cost is, you can tell them to build a building. Because they're not realistic costs. And when I look through this isn't even close to apples. You use 3 people to go through this building, you use 1 person to go through that building. Now, Mr. Verola, and I quote him from the Messenger, about how easy it's going to be to demo that building. The interior of that building is masonry and plaster, just like this building does.
No, it's not.
No, it isn't?
No, it's not.
I would have.
It's a steel frame building.
It's a steel frame building with composite floor decks, and it probably doesn't have concrete on the roof. And the roof's been leaking so long, the whole roof needs taken, the insulation.
You said interiors were masonry and plaster. Interior walls are gypsum. It's nuts.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The interior of that building, back in 64, spray-on fireproofing wasn't a big thing. So if you go over there, there's lath and plaster ceilings and plaster that was extended up. Let me finish, please. That plaster was extended up to the beam, which with the UL assembly, that probably met the codes then. The studs are pencil studs, and a good chunk of the building is red clay, speed towel, and plaster on it throughout. And I don't know how many rooms there is, but that would be classified as heavy demolition. Now, I would think that if the borough bit that off, you more or less got to go through and basically gut the whole interior of the building. Okay? Okay. Here, you're only going to basically renovate the outside, and redo the interior. That's so far from the National Energy Code. And that doesn't reflect what it would cost to bring it up to that. I can't imagine a municipality with all the emphasis on public safety that we wouldn't sprinkler 100% of our building, whether it's here or there. Now, that building there, the borough has in here that they're going to use 16,000 square feet of. It's going to cost them $4 million. This building with the addition is 50,000 feet. It's going to cost $9 million. Now, wait a minute. I would take the 50,000 feet because it's only $190 a square foot. That building, you're only going to get it up with 16,000 feet, and it's costing you over $200 a foot. What's that?
I was just checking to see if it was an agenda item where you should really be on the agenda next month.
Well, I'll come back. But here's my thing. Now the gentleman brought up about the agreements, which very few people have seen. There isn't full disclosure here over the whole thing. I think that motion should be thanks but no thanks, and the borough entertain independent proposals to renovate and or build a new building. And that's actually missing. A third option should be on there to build a new building. I don't know, what did we spend on that survey? Could I ask why there wasn't 3 professionals and only 1? Sir?
You're talking to me?
Yeah. It was a cost savings.
I'm the retained engineer. I gave him a proposal to do the work.
What did we spend?
It's professional services.
What did we spend?
It was about $1,800, right?
Approximately, and less for the Willis Center. I mean, if you want to hire a professional estimator and go out and do it, I mean, you're talking.
Well, all I'm saying, this is a big decision.
We're trying to do something high level.
We shouldn't be guessing anything. Okay. Contingency funds. There's a lot That's like, you know, in a lot of building construction, contingency funds are used for incentives. If we say we're going to borrow this amount of money, they'll spend every penny of it. They'll spend every penny of it. I just feel that this is not a realistic picture of what we got. And that building's been empty for how many years? I mean, 20, 25? How come? Residential construction for elderly, it's booming everywhere. But why is that building? Because you know why? It's cost prohibitive. And now with the addition of the, is it the nurses? It used to be the nurses' residence?
Building, yes.
And then what happens with the heating system if we're using boiler?
They're going to put rooftop units as the plan for...
For heating and cooling, or just cooling?
I'm not sure.
So, can I?
Go ahead.
Would you like to know?
Yeah.
So the building it currently has a 75-ton rooftop cooling unit, cooling only.
Mm-hmm.
It was on. There's a central boiler plant for the campus.
Right.
So all the duct work and everything like that is in place. It probably needs to be rerouted, tweaked, updated. I know. I'm sure I'm saying something wrong, but
it needs to be totally removed in a building like that. It's full of mold.
I'm not an HVAC contractor. I would defer to an HVAC design professional to do that.
And you know what else? You mentioned about how wonderful Chester is. Did you notice all the projects you named are public works projects, not private sector projects?
We have plenty of commercial.
Isn't that? Okay. I think your motion tonight should be to thanks but no thanks, and entertain a motion to entertain proposals for renovations and/or new construction. Okay?
Thank you.
Oh.
Yes.
I just have one comment, and this is, my second meeting, shame on me for not coming to all of it, but do we even have the money to do this? Last meeting I was at, there was $2 million in our bank. I'm not a mathematician, but if we're talking, this isn't a $100,000 project, this is millions of dollars. Where's the money coming? I haven't heard anything about where the money's coming from.
Well, maybe you don't hear it. Maybe that's because you haven't been at the meeting, but we have talked about it.
I haven't heard it.
To float a bond for the $3.6 million, it's going to cost roughly $220,000 a year. We feel we can make that without raising taxes.
Okay.
To do anything more,
I need
$9 million is going to cost about $530,000 a year. We're certain we're going to have to raise taxes to do that.
I just want to make sure that we have enough money.
Let's not use that number, Joe. That's an inflated number with $2 million in as an extra, $2 million in for an addition that we don't know that we need, and another $2 million in for furniture and office furniture and carpeting. Let's get the real numbers on it, okay? I'm not letting you get away with that number, like you just said there. That $9 million is not a real number. We don't need a $2.5 million, 15,000 square foot addition onto our borough building. Where can you do it? So let's wait and let's really look at things what we really want to do. Okay. And furthermore,
if I remember correctly, I think it was you that said you need to put an addition up above.
Up above where?
Up above the police station as it sits. I'm pretty sure that was you that said that.
You misheard that, because I never said that.
Okay, that's good. Okay, public comments on agenda items. I see Dawn in the back.
Thank you. Motion 1. What is negotiation for the Comcast franchise agreement? Can you enlighten me on that, please?
Yeah, the Comcast and Verizon come within we get paid every quarter. We get some money from them for the franchises that they do, for the people that use it. We get some money. Our agreements came up, and we couldn't just assign the agreement that they give us, but if we go out to Cohen, he does this for a living, this is all he does, he will negotiate, he will throw the agreement away, write an agreement specifically for Munhall. Why would make that be necessary? When we did the safe routes to school, there was a Verizon pole that they cut down, the Comcast had its wires on it. We needed to move that pole so we can put the sidewalks in, so we can rip the old ones out and pour new ones. We called Comcast and asked them to, come out here and move it. They didn't do it for over a month because we didn't have they didn't have to do anything for us because we didn't have anything in the agreement. Secondly, we have a resident right off of Homestead Duquesne Road who has Verizon and Comcast wires coming down through his yard. He could literally sit on top of a picnic table. His 5-year-old could sit there and hang on these wires. Now, they're not dangerous, but they're still there, and they're going through his yard. We could call them and tell them as much as we want. Dave and I called over and over, and nothing has been done. Now we can put these into the agreement to say, okay, we need these moved. If you don't come out, we're going to fine you X amount of dollars. The second part of it, the 4,900 part, is they will go and do an audit for us for the last years of the last agreement to make sure we got what we were supposed to get.
The money that we're supposed to get every year,
Right.
which is in the budget that shows that we
Right.
get X amount of money from.
How do we know? There's no audit or anything that they give us. They send us a check. How do we know we're getting the right amount? Cohen has statistics that 72% of the time that $4,900 is pay itself. Now there is a chance that 28% of the time that we're not going to make $4,900 back to pay that difference, but I think my suggestion is we need to look at that and see where we are with this. I'm willing to bet that in the past some agreements were just signed off and we did what we had to. So
Basically, we're saying that if lines have to be moved, they will move them, which we do not have.
in a timely
now.
fashion.
In a timely fashion.
Right.
Because I know there's some places when you ride around, you'll see lines laying down or just hanging from it. And would they come in and fix those lines?
We're at the mercy of them whenever they do it. Now we'll have a little bit more control.
For a timely fashion.
It's also more than that, though. The borough receives franchise fees.
I understand that.
Okay, and that's all regulated by the FCC, so this is an area, this is beyond municipal law. I handle just about everything that we have, but this is telecommunications, FCC expertise, and that's all this firm does. So they know the requirements and the limits and the parameters of what they can get to maximize the fees to this borough and maximize the interest of the borough for the citizens. So that's why on a rare occasion like this, then it's a good idea to consult with an expert in this specialized field.
Okay, and the borough has Comcast in the building, correct?
Yes.
We don't have Fios, we have Comcast. Okay, thank you. Motion 2, 3, and 4. We're hiring 3 people tonight?
Yes.
Okay, because I remember a couple meetings before, when you went to advertise, you were thinking of only hiring 2 and hiring another one later. It was still, I know it was undecided, but you can always do what you want. You can always add another agenda item on later on if you want to. But I just, like we were under the understanding that we were only going to replace 2 right now and maybe the 3rd one later. But we must need that 3rd person.
Yeah, and plus it got later in the year, and by the time we hire these people and they go through the background checks and they drug and alcohol testing, and they give their 2 weeks or whatever they need to give, we're already talking the end of the year.
Okay. Will any of them that we're hiring tonight have a CDL license?
One has a permit.
One has a permit? So they will finish off with the permit and get a CDL license. Will the borough reimburse them for that, or?
That's not mandatory for the position, the CDL license.
But years ago, it used to be mandatory for a time, I believe.
Okay.
We have enough drivers at this time. We're satisfied with the amount we have. But we can get one new one on, that would be fine.
We sent 2 people to classes this year. They get the permits on their own. They do all the training, and then we take them to class. And both of them have passed. In fact, Glenn Coles is back there now. He's one of them. And one of the second person we sent was more out of necessity. He went on his own to get it. We sent him to the training, and he got here. So we did get 2 new ones.
Okay.
Although we lost 2 as well.
No, true. You had some retirements. and somebody passed away, so you didn't, they had CDL license. Okay, thank you, but the one of them coming in does have a permit, which they could go ahead and finish and get their, okay. Number 5. What was the appraisal for?
The appraisal for everything that every parcel and every building that we have in the borough. We should do this every so many years. We haven't done it in a long time. That 5620, talking to our insurance agents and the industrial appraisals will help with, getting real numbers of what we need to be insured for.
Okay. Motion 8, I know there's a lot of discussion on this. You're just approving to extend your vote on it, to accept it or not, correct?
Correct.
I want to make sure that's right. And then if you wanted to, you could go ahead and vote on it in November, or you could vote on it in the December meeting. If not, if you don't vote it on in the December meeting, do you have to have a special meeting to decide if you're going to take it or not on December 31st, like sometimes you'll vote on the budget December 31st if you don't vote on it at the regular meeting?
We don't feel that's going to be necessary. We may have to extend it or reject it.
Okay, but you don't think you will advertise for a special meeting to vote on this?
I can't answer what's going to happen in the future, and if I would, I'd be lucky tonight.
I think anything we do will be handled at a regular monthly meeting.
At a regular meeting?
It will not be I don't see it being a special meeting.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, right, Mr. Dishon?
You're exactly right.
Thank you. After we vote on number 12 and 13, what will our balance be?
I don't remember, Don. It's somewhere in the
Come on,
neighborhood.
you're usually so good at this.
It's somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,150,727.82. Somewhere in that ballpark.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. 82 cents, right?
Yes.
Okay, and with the asterisks, it includes $198,469.38. And what's that for?
The reason that there's an asterisk there is we got $198,469.38 from PennDOT they reimburse us, they pay us, we pay Fasciana.
Okay.
For the Safe Routes across the school.
That was to finish off the safe routes to school then?
Yeah.
Okay. Just double checking. It only took how many years to do?
Well, a lot.
I do remember the meeting that grant was accepted here at the borough.
It only took 1 year while I was here.
1 year for it to get finished while you were here, yes. Also with the grant, Colin, you brought up a grant for Boone Way and Dixon Street.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to alleviate all the water problems that they've had down there in the past?
It's an attempt to.
It's an attempt to. Because I know they've had a lot of problems, and Dixon Street didn't get paved yet.
Dixon Street did not get paved. We asked for money to resurface Dixon Street.
This is a dirt gravel and
low volume.
Low volume dirt gravel
through the
grant.
Because I know there's a lot of problems down there, because I've seen it down around there at the time where you can almost take a boat down on 8th Avenue and go through there when you get a heavy rain, the way everything would back up. So that's supposed to help alleviate that or take it away?
Yes, the plan is to try to put some permeable pavement in the alley. And then put some plantings, bio basins along Dixon, so we'll lose a couple parking spaces, but those will help retain water rather than letting it run.
Okay, and I have one more question.
I'm curious one thing, what else would that grant be for?
Pardon me?
In your mind, what else would that grant be for?
I just thought I'd ask.
All right, that's one.
One other question. Do we foresee adding any other items to the agenda tonight? We did have an executive session. I just thought I'd ask.
I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Comments, agenda items. Okay.
Motion number 6. Catch basin replacement project. Do you have a list of catch basins you are replacing?
Yes.
We have Fairfield runner.
It is not.
Okay, agenda items?
Couple quick questions. Counselor, the draft agreement for the building next door, any reason we couldn't put that on the website tomorrow morning?
I don't control the website, that's not up to me.
Are we allowed access to the draft agreement?
You are through a right to know procedure.
Do we have to go through that, or?
That's not my call.
Our manager, can we put it on the website?
What are you asking for?
The draft agreement for the building next door?
For buying the
I mean, next door? I don't have a problem with that, if council doesn't have a problem with it.
You can put it on.
Could be an agenda item.
Nothing, yeah. Nothing's in it.
So we can put it on tomorrow morning?
You're asking for the donation agreement that was signed 4 months ago, that tonight is on the agenda to extend. Is that what I just want to clarify what you're asking for.
Correct, the draft agreement for them to donate.
Yeah, well, it's not actually, it is an agreement. It's beyond draft because it was signed. But I just want to clarify what you're asking for. So that's up to this council and its administration if they want to do that.
That's the most current agreement.
Yes.
So legally, we're allowed to put it on the website. Borough manager, can we do it?
Yes.
You want to add it, or you want to write the request and we can record of it?
We can add it.
Go for it, sir.
Thank you. Caller? Are there any schematics on space here versus space there?
We have existing drawings, 1940 drawings for this building.
As far as spacing requirements and needs, the borough population has declined over the years, but yet we need more room for the borough.
Again, the purpose of the estimate that I try to provide them in the most responsible and economic fashion I could was to give them a price of what it might look like to do a construction project here versus there. The next step, I'm just explaining.
The next step, 30,000 foot view, you took square footage.
50,000 foot view. We're talking
one
level.
document, Excel, square footage times.
If you look at each one of the reports I wrote, it's about 2 or 3 pages plus a little summary cost table. All right? When they go into a phase 1 study of what this building or that building or a new building or whatever might look like, you're talking about a 100-page document. And then as the design progresses, I mean, you're talking about a spec book that's going to be this thick, 300 pages of construction drawings. I mean, this is going to be a 4 to 7 or 8, depending on who you ask.
But your numbers are just national average, square footage,
based on the square foot. We did have engineers, like I said, engineers, electrical, mechanical, myself, I'm a structural engineer, civil engineer by trade, reviewed this building. We listed some deficiencies, and that wasn't done for the Willis Center. We simply just did a cost estimate. And when we prepared the cost, we looked at square foot costs based on our company information and our estimating catalog, what's published and what's available. So it should be apples to apples.
Mr. President, any schematics on why we need more space? Urban population.
The police are definitely insufficient in the space. We know that. We all agree on one thing. The police station does not have enough space. So that's something that's agreed upon by everybody.
There was a study done in 2015, 2 studies actually. One was by Optimus Risk Services, and then do you remember who did the one?
RDM, Resource Development and Management.
And they did
I could speak to, like, our needs over there. We have nowhere to store our records. Our records are stuff that every nook and cranny of the building.
Not just the police, but all the other.
I'm telling you on my end, he just asked me. Evidence storage, we built another room in the garage to hold our evidence, that's full. There's documents that we can never get rid of. There's documents that we have to hold on for 3 years. There's documents we have to hold on for 25 years, 50 years, 75 years, forever. Some of those are not, you can't transfer to an electronic file. Every report we have is backed up in our computers from now until back to 1992. We have records that we have nowhere to put them. They have to be in a secure facility. We can't just stack them in the hallways up here.
Sure.
Evidence is we're overflowing. We showed you that the evidence lockers.
I've gone through every
evidence lockers. the evidence safe is about from the end of the table to that microphone and as wide as this way. And it's stuff to the gill with firearms, with narcotics, with money, with knives, with anything you could think of. The biggest part for me that I think we need a separate evidence processing area. We're a busy department. We handle a lot of evidence, a lot of narcotic evidence. Right now, that narcotic evidence is being packaged on a circuit very similar to this. The guys are packaging the evidence, putting it in the evidence safe, and evidence locker. Right after that, they're sitting at the same space and typing their report. An hour after that, they're sitting there eating their lunch. It's dangerous. It's irresponsible for us not to address this. With the opioids that are on the street, the potency of them, you hear of first responders having overdose and having adverse health effects on them daily. I don't want that to be one of our guys because we didn't have the room to, for that reason. We didn't have the room. They had to, package this evidence here. Same place where they had to do the report. It's a pretty serious thing and it needs addressed. Whether it's addressed in this building, that building, or another building, I could care less, but it needs addressed. And we're going to.
And you're right.
And we're going to.
Should have been done a long time ago.
Right. Do you have a general idea on how much space you should minimally have? Have you given that to council?
Square footage wise, I have not. I've expressed to the mayor, the council, the engineer, what we need. We need an adequate amount of storage area for our records, for our evidence. There's some things that we should have, like I said, like the evidence processing area that we don't have, that we can't have where we're at. There's no other space. We don't have any training room in our, at all. We can't have, if we're planning a raid, which we do often, we have to come up with an unsecured part of the building. We don't have a conference room at our end of the building, and there's nowhere to. Anyone who's been through our end of the building, if you would take the computers and the telephones out, you would think you were walking on the set of Barney Miller from 1973.
That's what it looks like.
That's what it is. Every piece of furniture down there either came from Homestead Hospital or U.S. Steel. We're not looking for the Taj Mahal. We need some space to operate, and we need it to be a safer environment than what it is.
Well, what I think, Pat, you really don't have is you don't have a good spot for like a detectives to do an interrogation.
Yeah, we have
no. Privately, it's a shared wall with.
Yeah, I mean, there's a laundry list of things that we don't have that we should have that neighboring departments now have because they have newer facilities. A soft cell for juveniles. If we have a juvenile that we're not charging as an adult, we can't put him in one of our cells. And our cells, you can speak to that as well. The cells look like Alcatraz cells from the movie.
They need removed and
You're not allowed by law to lock a juvenile in one of those cells. What we could do, though, is have what's called a soft cell or a juvenile cell or an interrogation room, which can double and be the same exact thing, which is just a room with windows in it and a locked door. We can view that person. They can't get out. There's no sharp object. There's no sharp corners. It's just a secured room. It's not a holding cell, but it's referred to as a soft cell or a juvenile cell. And we would like to double as an interrogation because we don't have one of those either.
What about cleaning your weapons and stuff? You don't have room for that either.
We don't have a weapons room. We have a weapons safe that we bought at Dick's for $900.
Sounds like we should really put a list together and make sure whatever option is
chosen. We've sat down, we've given a list, we've told them, we sat down, the Barney and myself and Captain Snyder sat down with the mayor, we toured every inch of our building. We told him what we feel we need as a department, what, the reports from RDM, which the borough paid, I believe, $56,000 to have that report done. That's what they recommended. Their recommendation, I think the opening line regarding the police department was the space is woefully inadequate for today's police and needs, which is true. We have mouse traps under every desks down there, because there's mice that run through our building. The building is old, it's just not conducive for today's policing on our end. You know, the part that you see when you walk through, it's nice and clean and somewhat updated. You haven't been on our end of the building. And
it's dirty.
Yeah, it is. It's just
filthy dirty, it needs renovations, but the space is there. We could do it. There's empty space down below. There's space that garage could be put on. We don't need a 10,000 square foot addition put on, but we could put an addition on.
We need a garage space to store a vehicle.
We could build garages too.
Well, we do need a garage space to store a vehicle. If we seize a vehicle that we have to start a search warrant on. We have to secure that vehicle inside until we obtain that warrant, then conduct a search warrant on the vehicle. We have the crime lab come here and do a search on a vehicle for fibers, for paint transfer, for any, you know, if it's involved in an accident or involved in an armed robbery. There's a lot of things that, you know, we need a secured garage, a temperature controlled garage for. You know, so we can't just convert that garage space into usable, like, into our cell block.
We could build another garage.
Like I said,
we could build an addition.
I can speak for the police department.
We could build a new fire department back there, take the other garage. We could go on all night and talk.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, for us, if it's this building, if it's that building, if it's a building on the moon, it doesn't matter to us. We need a better work environment than what we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with the rest of them.
You need where it needs to be, not better, you need it right.
We need it right. We need a little more room than what we have right now. But we, like I said, you know, what can that be done over there? I'm not in construction.
Okay. Let's move on. More questions.
I don't think any of us are opposed to our police, our firemen. They are the lifeline of our borough, and maps. I mean, we need you badly. I feel bad that it's had to take this long for any of this to come to the forefront. And unfortunately, I think we're all mature enough, and because we're communicating, I'd like to think that we can work it out. You know, you listen to us, we listen to you, you give us ideas, we give you ideas. That's what adults do. I don't think there's a person in this room who would want to be eating their lunch with their beers. I'm not kidding, and I mean seriously. But this should never have gone on to this extent of no maintenance or no upkeep or no, because, I've just started coming here, but I would imagine that in the budget, it has been budgeted every year to have maintenance. And I mean, if it means hiring a company to come in and clean up, I'm just saying, I don't think any of us are opposed to that. We want you to be good. We want you to have good.
Okay, an agenda item?
I guess it would pertain to an agenda item. Is there an actual number, like 5, 10, 15, 20 that are allowed to be on particular, like the planning commission or the zoning board? Is there a number?
Yes, there is. Yep.
There is?
Yep, there's a set number in the municipality's planning code that addresses your duties as a planning commission member and how many people serve, addresses a number on the zoning hearing board, and what their duties are. It's all in the MPC.
So there is a number. Do you have any idea what the number is?
It's 7 or 9.
It's, I can't recall off the top of my head. It's one or the other, but I don't have it memorized.
Well, and the reason I'm asking is I would like to ask the council if they would consider reinstating Mr. Jim Barca onto the planning commission.
Well, the number's set now by ordinance. Whatever it is, we have it set. So when the planning commission and the zoning hearing board were established by this borough a long, long time ago, long before I was ever here, the number is set. So I assume the seats are all full now.
So again, when there is a vacancy, I would like to recommend Mr. Barca be reinstated.
Okay, do we have any agenda items?
Is it my turn yet?
I told you to talk.
Yeah, let that lady talk.
I just wanted to say, last week at that workshop meeting, I certainly didn't mean to be rude or malicious. I think she missed the point. We didn't know a thing about it. Most of the residents don't know a thing about this batch new construction. This is a $7.5 or a $10 million new addition slash building, whatever, and most of the residents don't know a thing about it. So we come here and we're trying to find out what's going on, and in this past week we found out more than we should have had this all along. This is just a small plot down here that had houses on it, and all of a sudden it's going to be turned into a campus that's for a good cause. But why don't the residents get to know about it before all of a sudden building permits are going to be issued? They told us tonight demolition is going to happen within a week. They already have plans to start construction in February. Nobody has seen any parking plans. Nobody has seen, we see pretty cartoon schematics, but we haven't seen actual contractor plans with setbacks that show if they're able to abide by the lot lines. And Mr. Cannon, when he talks about he's going to consider it a school, well, when you consider it a school, guess what? You take everything off the zoning map. You don't have to do any of the checkoffs that you have to do for regular commercial building. And that's why it's such a big deal.
That's 100% incorrect.
Well, we haven't seen...
Not only have to meet all the zoning requirements. They have a, what's the engineering firm you're using?
Sarah.
Yeah, they're very reputable. They have our zoning code. They're gonna be looking at everything.
Hey,
and like I
are
said,
there plans yet? Are there plans? Actual building plans?
Yeah, I haven't seen them. Again, I'm only the director of operations. I haven't seen the plans, but I mean, this has been, the plans have been going on for years. The concept is becoming more of a plan, is what it comes down to. From what we were told, we have met all the requirements of what we needed to do and presented where we needed to be. So the plans are absolutely going forward for the building.
Didn't you tell me, didn't you and I, when we were talking, didn't you say, I asked you privately, didn't you say something, or Tasha said something, that before the plans can move forward, you had to hit a certain amount of money?
Was saying,
and now you're at that point,
right? We hit 70% of the total budget for the entire building.
You needed to have that before you can do it.
What they'll have to do is their engineer will stamp their drawings. They'll have to go get a third-party inspector to look at the plans. After that, they get a third-party plan review. They'll turn in the plans to me. I'll review it, and I'll issue a building permit.
Wait a minute. You're the only one that reviews it then.
I just told you. There will be a third-party plan review. So first, they'll have architect stamp drawings. Okay? Then they'll take it to a third-party plan reviewer. Okay? Then they'll bring it to me.
Third-party plan review made up of?
Any company in the state of Pennsylvania.
Okay, not borough officials.
No.
Okay.
Any
right.
certified plan review or plan review person in the state of Pennsylvania. Once they'll stamp this plan, they'll verify it. Then they'll bring it to me. They'll ask for a building permit. As long as they meet all of our zoning requirements, I'll issue a building permit.
Zoning requirements for a school or zoning requirements for a commercial building?
It's not a commercial. Well, I'm considering it as, like we talked, it's going to be an educational facility with a recreational use.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I also understand what the zoning code says. So our question was, if it's a school, you can put it, you have a certain set of standards. If it's something else, then there's other standards.
That's right, and there's nothing in here that describes an educational facility.
Right.
So the closest thing to an educational facility as a zoning officer would be a school.
Except if there's a gymnasium and a cafeteria.
Okay, then it becomes a recreational facility. When they build a recreational facility, it would have to meet those building requirements. The gymnasium, like he said earlier, depends on the use. Okay.
None of the public has any of that information. I just feel that...
Here, I'll tell you, Roth Carpet's building a storage addition on there. No one probably even knows they're building it, but they're building a storage.
Is it on West Street next to the Borough Building?
It's right down on Grand Street. Okay.
You see what we're talking about? This is a big deal, and it would just be nice if the residents got to know what's happening.
Like I said, they went in front of planning. They also came in front of council.
And that's my point that I wanted to say. I certainly meant no disrespect to the Balluses. It's just that because we never heard anything about it.
Well, like everyone says, they came in front of planning, they came in front of council, everybody on council saw the plans. We advertise every single month.
Okay, I
that
know,
there's
I
a
know.
meeting.
Can I just finish talking and I'll sit down and I'll shut up? The planning commission, if it came in front of planning and the whole point is, if you work for the company that is looking for the permission to build, that's a conflict. And if you and your mother-in-law are on the planning commission, you need to tell people that. And I'm just going to read the law. The planning commission may at some time be confronted with an issue in which one or more of its members have either a vested financial interest or a close personal or business relationship. In such instances, the member or members should excuse themselves from any deliberation of the issues or at least publicly disclose the nature of his interest in the matter. We got that this week, but 2 years ago or a year ago, we didn't get that.
Well, I actually did that. When we did vote to consolidate, I didn't vote. I abstained from voting because
You're talking about consolidating the lots.
But it's no different than a building. That's all that we've gone, but what you're not understanding is all we went in front of planning was for a lot consolidation. I was told when the plans were presented and everything like that at the council meeting, at that point, we were told, there are no separate requirements. It's permitted use for what we're using the facility for. So I was told at that time that there was no other need for me to go to planning, zoning, council, anything because it was permitted use.
But you said the plans were submitted. There still are no plans.
No, I said we made a presentation. I can show you the boards that we
I want to
presented
see
there.
those boards. I used to work with the zoning board. I know what plans are. I know what construction plans are. These aren't them.
I didn't say they were.
Well, that's what this borough should be reviewing before they say, oh yeah, you can start building in February. That's
Like
all
I
I'd like to
said,
say.
it'll be a third-party reviewer reviewing the drawings. First will be an architectural stamp or an engineer stamp on it, and then you'll have a third-party inspector.
They're already saying
also
they're
the
starting
county will.
construction in February. How could that be?
That might be a pipe dream, but well, you never know.
Or it could be a reality.
It only takes 2 months, it takes around 4 to 6 weeks for a third party to inspect it, and a county takes
6 to 8 weeks probably.
So you're looking at 2 months. So
You need the plans.
right, well, if they get their plans in November.
There's no plans.
Well,
Ryan, if you would
I
allow.
can't speak on that. I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer.
the most it'll take is for the review process to happen
Right,
maybe 2
have
months.
you been allowed to even do the plans until you have the money?
I'm sorry?
Maybe I'm misunderstanding. I thought you weren't allowed to do a plan until you had 70% of the cash. So now that you have it, which has just became recently from what you and Tasha told me,
And
now
that's when
you
we'll go
can
into
go
public,
move
that's when
forward.
we
with
actually
it.
go into public phase, that's what she was trying to say.
Right, now we're going through, you're gonna go through with that. Now that, because before the 70% was there, you couldn't, from what I understand.
Correct.
Am I correct? Okay.
If they get their plans done by November, if the engineering companies, they have, start November, December, January, they could start building probably more like November, because it only takes 6 to 8 weeks.
If they meet all the requirements.
Right.
If they don't have parking, if they don't have proper setbacks, then they have to go in front of the zoning hearing.
That's
Correct.
right.
Correct.
But according to their,
But that's why we, no, that's why that's the architect's part of that. We have nothing to do with that. That's their job, that's what we hired them to do, is to make sure that we hit all the setbacks and make sure that they're parking requirements. What we didn't explain to everybody, and I guess it makes even more sense, is we only have 2 paid employees in there.
Right.
We already have 4 parking places that we can park for those employees, and we're only looking to add 2 more employees to the actual place itself.
Wait, parking, you don't just need employee parking, you also need public parking if it's a facility such
no,
as
you're
this.
100% wrong. For a school or educational facility, you either need 2 per classroom or 1 per every full-time employee.
No, you don't need public parking for a school.
That's what I was always saying.
Okay.
Let's face it.
Okay.
The buses or anything pull up, the buses, they just They just open the doors and the kids run across the street.
There's no
buses.
There's no busing.
No buses in
There's
Still
no
Valley.
buses up to school, there's no busing in Munhall.
I know there's no buses.
Majority of the students, like, he probably tell you,
Okay.
is off.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, we're not voting anything tonight on this, and there's nothing to vote on. So it's not an agenda item tonight. And I think they did a good job explaining it. The Batch Foundation, Ryan and Tasha.
But the plan is to bring busing in with students from other districts?
No.
Not after work, not after school?
It's only gonna be Still Valley kids after school. They said, right? From what I heard?
After
Right.
school, they get a lot of funding from other school districts.
Okay.
We did.
But this isn't really an agenda item. I think maybe
No, we
you ought to
have-
take a tour of the,
Yeah.
if you haven't been in there, take a tour. Ryan, let me give you a tour.
We
He'll
don't
show you
get
what they're
funding from
doing
any
there.
school districts at all, period.
I suggest
We don't
maybe
get
you
funding
take
from
a
Valley,
tour
we don't
and
get some funding from, we
sit
have
down with
kids
them.
that,
Yeah, you
that
still sit
send
down
our
with them.
programs from different schools, like we do Project Chuck, it's been 19 years. We've had people as far as Greensburg, Jeanette, City of Pittsburgh, they've all taken part in Project Chuck. It's a 3-month long program, all of our programs are free. Yes, they'll come from wherever to actually play basketball in our league.
So the East Allegheny School District is paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Batch Foundation
But for what?
for a charter school.
We're not a charter, we will never be a charter school. We will never be a charter
Okay.
school. We have no desire to be a school. All we are is a facility that Steel Valley uses. That's it. We have nothing to do with the school. The teacher does not report to me. The teacher does not report to my boss. They report to the administrators at Steel Valley. We receive 0 funding from any schools, period, at all. There's not 1 penny.
Thank you. Okay, items for consideration.
Motion to approve agreement to hire Cohen Law Firm to negotiate the Comcast franchise agreement for $7,900 and then to perform audit for the past charges and fees for $4,900.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Ballas, second by Mr. Shaw, all in favor, somebody saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Nays?
Motion to approve the hiring of Christian Miller as a Public Works employee with a salary and benefits pursuant to the collective bargaining agreement pending pre-employment background check and drug and alcohol testing.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Ingles.
Second.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Motion carries.
Motion to approve the hiring of Patrick Gibbs, apologize, as a Public Works employee with salary and benefits pursuant of the collective bargaining agreement pending pre-employment background check and drug and alcohol testing.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Petrusi, second by Mr. Ballas. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Motion to approve the hiring of Tim Augustine as a Public Works employee with salary and benefits pursuant of the collective bargaining agreement pending pre-employment background check and drug and alcohol testing.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Ingles. Second by Mr. Petrusi, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Motion to approve payment in the amount of $5,620 to Industrial Appraisal for an industrial appraisal.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Rodriguez. Second by Mr. Ingles, all in favor, by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Motion to accept bid from Creative Enterprises of $54,250 for catch basin replacement project, with $40,000 of it being paid through the CD 44 grant and administered by the Still Rivers Co.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. DeShawn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ballas. All in favor, somebody saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Nays?
Motion to accept bid from Creative Enterprise Corporation for $141,805 to complete the Shady Harvey Avenue Extension project.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Ingles, second by Mr. Ballas. All in favor, somebody saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Motion carries unanimously.
Motion to approve agreement to extend the deadline to accept Willis Center properties until December 31st.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Ballas.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor, somebody saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to advertise for Borough of Munhall Stormwater Ordinance 1591.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sean. Second by Mr. Petruzzi. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays? Motion carries.
Motion to approve resolution to request CDBG funds of $104,000, $104,125, and designate Steel Rivers COG as officiates to file application.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bodine, second by Mr. Sean. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve the September 19, 2018 minutes.
So moved.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Sean, second by Mr. Ballas. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays? Motion carries.
With this next motion, there should be an asterisk next to Public Works as well. The $469.38 for Michael Fasciani Contracting is from that. And the asterisk next to miscellaneous included the $168,333.58 for the U.S. Treasury, and pension MMOs of $323,174.37. I also recognize that there is no total at the bottom. The total being $1,165,830.21.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Ingles.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sean. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Nays? Motion carries unanimously.
Motion to approve payroll for the period of September 6th and the 23rd of 2018 for the total of $262,438.44.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Bodine.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sean. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any additional matters for good of council? Munhall Borough?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion adjourned, Mr. Bodine, second by Mr. Sean. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. No nays?